So greetings to one and all. It's your old buddy Jay here, coming at you with some more countermeasures goodness. It's another game changer for you this week, and I have two fellow nerds here with me in the chat room running Zoom. So I have my good friend Jon, aka the hairy boy. He's down here. Second time on the show, Jon. Second time, isn't it? Woo! You were the first guest, and now you'll be the last. Yeah. And then my good friend Wayne, who's aka the ferret, if I remember. That's your.
It is. See, hello.
I'm not sure these. You know, like in the Matrix, where they've all got kind of funky, cool names. I think we'd probably be on the ship that got taken out first.
It's the problem of trying to get yourself a gamer tag at the turn of the century, isn't it? When you
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the one that you want, which is just, it inevitably needs to have 15XX asterisk after it, because some Japanese kid 20 years ago already has it. So So basically, this is a sort of a conversation about the up and coming game Cyberpunk 2077. And what I thought would be quite good, because this franchise has been around for quite a long time. There's obviously a new game coming out this year, but the franchise itself has been around for like over 30 years. I thought it might be quite interesting just to talk about it a little bit, because I actually don't know a great deal about it, other than, I knew the game was coming up. And when the game came out, I started having a little look into the history of it, and saw that obviously it stems from a role-playing game from the late 80s. Now, Wayne, you're a resident role-playing game from the late 80s expert, having actually, I don't know if you've played it before, Jon. I never played the role-playing game.
I seem to remember seeing it for sale in a car boot when I was a kid, ages ago.
You should have bought that, because it was probably £3 then, and now if you go on eBay, it's like 500 quid. They are so sort of, and it literally is just a box. Yeah. It's like a box with one sheet of paper in it that's got scribbles all over it.
The one nice thing that I like is when you buy the game now, pre-order, you actually get the source book.
Oh, do you? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's good. That's good. So yeah, because your history with sort of role playing games, you've done quite a lot, Wayne, haven't you? In the past, you've done.
I wouldn't say a lot, but yeah, I mean, I've done quite a bit, but I wouldn't say like a lot.
Yeah.
What we did was, I mean, we played Cyberpunk, and touched on a bit of Shadowrun, but never really got into Shadowrun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I played 40K on the tabletop and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And Jon, you and I used to, for a little while, didn't we?
D&D and Warhammer, wasn't it?
That's right.
I think we did.
Yeah, I distinctly remember a lot of wasted weekends of coming up with someone would be the dungeon master, and they'd come up with the story, and then inevitably what would happen is we go on a journey together, and then through those experiences, not only would we become closer as friends, but our characters would get experience points and go through all these different. And it was.
I still remember the day my cleric died. I was really, really
shattering.
Dual wielding hammers. The cleric was awesome.
Died.
When he died, I still remember that day.
I can remember that you would often argue with the dungeon master about where the story was going, which I think the dungeon master would be like, "You're in a room and there's a monster." There isn't. Okay, there isn't. Right, moving on. And I think that's what's quite fun about that. That whole kind of culture of role-playing games is that you've got this sort of interaction with your friends, and you've got these characters that you build up, these personas. And this is pre-internet, so having a character outside of yourself that you could, roll the dice and find yourself in these different situations, I think is quite fun. Especially when you're,
wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you're, you're sort of that, those teenage years where maybe you're writing stories and things like that, and suddenly you can include your friends in that. I think it's quite fun. I mean, I don't know what you think about that, Wayne. Were you ever the dungeon master, or were you?
No, and even when I think about GM, I did it for a little while when I was at school. We did lunchtimes in the library. I mean, that's as pretty nerdy as you get.
Yeah.
And
I was girls
GM for a while. We had a couple of squint looks across the room, but but no, that's the thing, is like GMing is a different beast. It's like I did it for a while, and it was fun but you don't really partake in the adventure, because you kind of let the players lead the journey, and you kind of fill in the story around them.
Yeah, sure.
Whereas when you're playing, you can, like you say, there's a room with the monster. Yeah, I'm not going in there. I'm going this way.
Yeah,
and,
exactly. Yeah.
The GM's planned this battle for like weeks, and you just walk around it, and it's like, okay, see you later.
Yeah,
so, and that's the thing about role playing games, is the freedom. In any PC game, as free as they make it, it's still linear, because you're stuck inside this boundary.
Yes.
You can only go left or right or straight. There's no like, I'm going back and then forgetting about all of this and going somewhere else. So yeah.
But what's interesting about that is, like, as obviously, we all started off fairly young playing those sort of role-playing games, and we've all grown up. I mean, the reason we're here is that we all love video games, presumably. John, you're not just here for the cash, are you? Because I've got some news for you.
I'm here for the fame.
Yeah. There's 3 of us in this, and it'll only be watched by 2 of us, so that'll be the that'll be the most views it gets. But yeah, I think what's interesting about that is that, as games have progressed through time, they've all had really, they've really had a stab at trying to solve that issue of, like, you're on a linear path. There are games that are like, this is your linear path and that's the story and whatever. But there are more open world games that try and solve the, you're making all the decisions, you're choosing to go left, we're not telling you to go left, that kind of stuff. And I think some games do it really well, some games just don't. It doesn't work, because they can't handle the branching, the potential direction that you can't, between the 3 of us, we'd all potentially have a very different experience playing a role-playing game. So how can you contain that in one how can you sit and work out those branching trees? And I think over time, when they first started doing it, it didn't really work, but now I think some games are starting to get there. And I think that's what's interesting about this game that's coming out, is that I see, like, the potential of, while we may end up meeting at various key points within the game, the story itself, you could go off and do anything. All of these side missions. I mean, I don't know. Did you play The Witcher, John? Did you ever?
Yeah, I've been trying to play through The Witcher 3, and I've got to say I'm struggling a little bit with it.
Yeah.
Not in the sense that I don't think it's good and it's well put together, and I played a bit of The Witcher 2 as well on the previous gen, but it's just not grabbed me. And I think that because I've been so used to playing something like Skyrim, which I've just devoured.
Well, you're the Skyrim expert, aren't you?
Because I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I've probably wasted too much of my life in that. I dread to think the hour count.
Didn't you once not go out for a whole weekend because you were mining steel? Or mining ore?
I did come across, well, actually, it was the, what's it called? The Condinium or whatever it was. I found a little kind of place, what's it called? A mine.
Yeah.
And I was, bloody hell, there's no, there was a couple of like things around that I killed, and then I was thinking, there's all this stuff. So I did literally spend, probably I was down there for total about 9 hours over the course of a weekend.
Yeah.
Just mining these ingots.
Yeah. But I think that's what's good about it, is, like, as funny as that is, you get made a fortune. Yeah, I mean, you were within the game environment, doing that. It gives you the freedom to do that. And I think that's what's good about modern games, is that.
Yeah, what I like about games like this, and what I'm hoping with Cyberpunk 2077, is I don't have a great deal of time these days to play games, kids and life and work and what have you. So when I'm playing a game, I'm often quite conscious of how much time I'm spending playing that game, or thinking I've only got an hour and a half. Whereas with something like, looking back at something like Skyrim or some of the other games that I really kind of like delve deep into, you kind of lose yourself. You lose that sense of time, and you start playing, and the next thing you know, you're looking up and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever. And
I've just got to do one thing.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, I'll just pop off and do that, and suddenly another 2 hours goes by. No problem.
It's not realizing that you're losing that time, which is what I'm kind of, in a weird way, looking forward to with Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Although I'd say about the Cyberpunk, from what I've seen so far of like the the demos that they've shown and the trailers and what have you, I'm a bit concerned that it is going to be quite linear. in the sense that there is a definite path that you need to follow, and obviously there's going to be choices within there.
Yeah.
Sort of like I've seen at the beginning mission, you can be like a street urchin or this kind of or whatever.
Yeah.
But I do wonder, how much of a branching off.
Well, I think,
like say for in the Oblivion series, you can just go and be kind of like a blacksmith for a bit. If you want to.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know if it's
going to be that kind of thing in there.
I get the feeling that I mean, I've played the Witcher 3, and I've spoke to Wayne about this before, which is like, the whole thing was like the big build up to finding Ciri. Right, so that's what you're meant to be doing. Right, the whole story was like, first find Ciri, let's find Ciri. So I put loads of time into that game trying to find Ciri, and then I found Ciri, and she was just on a beach, and then I turned it off, and I haven't played it since. And there's like another 100 hours, but I felt like I'd done. Just got to the point where I was like, I've achieved what I wanted to do. She's here. I didn't really. I got to the point where I'd almost got a bit of fatigue by doing so many of the side missions. Even though I did enjoy them, I thought, well, I've probably put like 50 or 60 hours into this, and there she is. I'm done.
I think that is a bit of a problem with a lot of these modern open world games, is that there are lots of side missions, and they say, you've got all these opportunities, you can go and do stuff. But a lot of the time, those side missions, they're the kind of, it's just a rinse and repeat. Like, go here, kill something, go here, get something, come back here, go here, find something. It's kind of, there's not as much variation. Whereas when you look back at, say, something, like GTA, the Grand Theft Auto series is like awesome, obviously, blah, blah. There's so much variation, even in GTA 2 or Liberty Sports, and Chinatown Wars on the DS and stuff. Or there is that kind of a bit more variation than just go here and kill something. And that what really came to me was when I played GTA 4, which I just absolutely loved and developed, because I love the whole kind of like people of New York, and
that's with the Russian guy, isn't it? It starts off on the dock. That's right. Yeah, Bellic was his name, something like that.
Bellic. Yeah, I absolutely adored GTA 4, probably more than GTA 5, to be honest. I think GTA 4 for me, just personally, I don't know, maybe it was the point in my life or whatever, was my favourite GTA.
Well, at the time, you were a Russian taxi driver, so it probably resonated with you.
Well, those hookers wouldn't drive themselves around, so
they refused. Yeah.
But what I loved about, and for the first time I really experienced, is like, you could get on your mobile phone, the iFruit, and you could phone up your cousin, and you could.
I forgot about iFruit. Yeah.
You could go and play darts, or you could go, what was some of the other, there was darts, there was pool, you could go drinking.
The drinking one was good, because it would kind of, you'd come out completely plastered, and you'd be in the world, but everything would be like, or you'd wake up with no trousers on by a river, so, and let's face it, we've all done that. So,
then it had the really, like, well thought through missions, like the heist, which was that spin on what's the famous film? Heat, spin on Heat, where you do the thing and you're going down the road, which was really good. So it kind of like had all of these kind of things. You could go in guns blazing, kill stuff, blah 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 blah. But you also could just go and shoot some pool or play some darts or go to the cinema. Go to the comedy club.
I think from
really nice.
What I see about the Cyberpunk one. Sorry, John, go on.
No, I was going to say, I wonder whether Cyberpunk's going to have.
Well, I think it does.
What I've seen, it does.
I mean, they've showed a limited amount in the trailers, and I'm going to run some of that while we're talking. But they've shown that you can actually
sound effects, like we're watching that, like wow, whoa.
Sorry, I thought you meant like sound effects in the game. Oh, that's a good bit. I like his shoes. So
he's going to end this way.
He could end a multitude of. So basically, I think that there are, like, you can go off and do a whole. I mean, I don't know if you've probably seen more than I have in terms of the trailers, Wayne. I mean, I've only seen a limited amount of stuff. They're starting to really roll out. It's like 50 days until it comes out. It's like November the 19th, isn't it? It's like the big launch day.
Yeah.
And I keep seeing little snippets, but I'm probably not quite as up to date as you are. I know you've watched some of the Nightwire stuff.
Yeah, the Nightwire. Yeah, they're actually pretty good. I mean, what they've been saying is that you do have like mini games. They haven't told us what it is, but it's gonna be they reference to like Gwent in Witcher 3.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's going to be a game that you can go out and play. It might. I mean, who knows? It might be a spin-off of whatever it is that comes out. But,
something marketable, probably.
Yeah, something marketable. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, from what I've heard is it's going to be like Witcher 3, where you can disappear into side quests for days at a time and just go, oh shit, I was supposed to be doing this for the main storyline, and then find yourself back on there.
But I quite like that in The Witcher, in that, like, even though I did just basically pull the plug out of the wall when I got to that bit, before that I actually found the side quests far more interesting on that one than even the main plot. Like some of those side quests where you were like, I'll go and do that because I'll probably be a couple of hours. It would be like 5 or 6 hours following these various sort of, that just, these tied them all together.
That's what gives me hope about Cyberpunk, is that because CD Projekt Red and The Witcher 3, having played the whole thing, it's kind of like, I can see if that it's basically the same game with a different skin, where you're going to have all these options, and with the 3 different roles you're going to have more choice. So whether you're a corp or a street kid or a nomad, you're going to get different options in your dialogue to steer the encounter your way. So
I'm right in thinking that's how is that how you would have started the original RPG? You would chosen one of those 3 classes.
There's a lot more classes. I think what they're trying to do is that those are your 3 starting like your 3 starting areas. So you start in a specific area depending on what you pick as your background.
So if you're a nomad, you're out in the desert.
Out in the deserts, you basically like you're nomads, you caravans, you drive around, you move from place to place, but you live outside the city limits. You don't live in the city itself. And then obviously the street kid, you grow up in the gangs. And then
so outside the city limits would be outside of the M25. So just to put it, just to get some sort of perspective. Right. Just so I'm thinking along the right lines.
Think Mad Max. Max.
So John, in this three-way conversation, you are the nomad. Awesome. Down south.
I do like a caravan.
You do like a caravan, actually. I think I can see how this is all weaving together. Sorry, Wayne, go on. So the second class, you're in the city, right?
Yeah, the second one, you're starting out as a street kid. So your background is growing up in the streets of the gangs.
Yeah. Is that the Netrunners? Am I right in thinking that?
No. You see, that's the thing is that their 3 starting ones are basically nomad, the street kid. The street kid is not really a role in Cyberpunk, though. It's kind of just like a starting point that they're going to give you.
Right.
And then the corporate one, and the corp. So that there's in Cyberpunk, you've got. Let me try and get all of them. You've got the nomad, the corporate, the solo, the fixer, the netrunner, and the media. And so you've got all those different roles. And then I think what they're trying to do is within your skill tree, you can then branch into any one of those kind of the main classes, but it's going to be like a subclass within their game.
Right. Okay. But, and I do like that about, games where they give you the option to do that, to kind of develop into a certain character, because then suddenly the replayability is so interesting. Because when you're doing a mission, or you're following a path with a certain set of rules, say you're a mage, or you're, a barbarian or whatever, when you're playing, you think, oh, I wonder what it would have been like if I was good with the bow or whatever. So suddenly the replayability value opens itself up to going back and trying those other classes.
Yeah, I think you're going to get that here, because I mean, like from what I've seen on the videos and the Nightwire and stuff like that, is you can come to a main story quest, and if you're a corporate, you can kind of talk your way out of it, because depending on the situation, about corporations and how they work. Or if you're a netrunner, you can disable security, so you can stealth your way through the whole mission and not have to kill anybody. Or you could just go solo, which is the hired mercenary, and just go in guns blazing and kill everything.
So who were you when you played the role-playing game? Were you just
the solo?
Right.
the biggest guns you could find.
So you weren't the guy in the back with the 2 wires trying to open the door.
No,
you were the guy with the hammer.
Yes, I was the guy with the hydraulic cyber arms punching the door in.
Yeah, and is that how you're planning on playing this? Because
that's my first playthrough. Yeah. It's just
guns blazing.
The biggest gun you can buy, the strongest cyber arms you can have. I don't know if they're gonna have Wolvers, because that's another, like, the cybernetics, the cyberware in the game. They've shown you the Rippers, which are the praying mantis claws that come out.
Yeah.
But there's another one. There's the Wolvers, which is basically Wolverine arms, and they come out of your.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they'll dial in as much of that stuff as possible.
I'm looking forward to seeing all the cyber tech.
Yeah,
but I think that's
going to be real bonkers.
That as much as I did enjoy The Witcher, I've never really been a massive kind of wizards and warlocks kind of person. Like, I have played a lot of those games, and mainly because there's branching storylines and they're quite open and epic. But I am looking forward to getting stuck into this because I really liked I don't know if you played Mass Effect, but I played through those, and that whole experience, like the first one is sort of really sort of it's quite an old game now, but when I played it, it was it was quite sort of refreshing and giving you different dialogue options and having all these multiple side quests and things. And then the second one got better, and then the third one they were trying to tie it all up, and it had to fail. Because they basically said to everyone, you can do anything, wherever, whatever your story is, it definitely will be, and it basically came down to press the red button, press the blue button at the end of the game, because they couldn't deal with the multiple choice, to that point. Whereas I feel with this game, I feel like it might feel a little bit more organic getting to that point, even if it ends up with the red and blue button. I feel like they probably will have planned for that rather than just paste it on at the end to cover up any problems, so I do think that's something.
It'd be nice to see how many endings they have, how many different endings they have.
Yeah, I mean, CD Projekt Red, they're not shy of going back and touching up storylines and adding DLC and doing all this extra stuff. And I think that's what excites me about this, is that the franchise feels like it's in really good hands. Like if it was in Bethesda's hands, you'd be thinking after Fallout 76 and all of that stuff, which just didn't do very well. I mean, it's got a big following, like all Fallout games have, but it had so many problems. If they'd had it, I'd just be, if they were doing the Cyberpunk thing, I'd be like, well, I know how this ends, sort of, with your screen freezing, it's just...
Fallout 4, I mean, I'll just take you to task on that. I thought Fallout 4 was excellent.
Oh, yeah, Fallout 4 is brilliant. It's brilliant. 4,
a bit like Aaron, I sunk so much time into.
Yeah, no, I did too. And I think that's what I liked about that, is that I'm more into those sort of sci-fi dystopian games than I am sort of wizards and warlocks. I'll always lean that way. Fallout 4 was probably the closest I've got to actually being happy with the story branching. Because at the end of that, there are multiple endings depending on what faction you're with, right?
Yeah.
I think the problem with Fallout 76 is that they rushed it out the door because they wanted to do this games of services bullshit.
That's right. Yeah.
So it was kind of just throw it out there and we'll make it better over time.
Yeah.
But you've lost 70% of your audience on your first week because it's a heap of garbage.
And also they all jumped on the bandwagon for that games of service, and none of them really knew how to do it properly. And I think they, and that sort of culture of we'll just we've got a game, it's 60% finished, we'll just get it out there and then we'll fix it as time goes on. But with those sorts of games, especially with the Fallout fan base, no one's going to settle for that. Of course they're going to play it, but they're going to complain the whole way through, because it had so many problems. They were
and the fact that
disappearing
you're using the same
helicopters.
engine. They were using the same engine as Oblivion. Is it Oblivion?
It's not.
What is it? I forgot now.
Well, I only ever remember Unreal and Frostbite. I never really remember what the other one is, but it's
they have their own engine, and it's still the same engine that they've used from one of their first games, and the bugs have progressed through the game. So if you knew the bug back in, I think it was Morrowind. But anyway, so from back then, it's the same. It's
just carried on. I mean,
it's just carried on through.
Nothing says we don't care. 10 years later, seeing the same glitch, you're just why are you churning this stuff out when you've still got fundamental issues? And I think that's what's good about CD Projekt Red, is that everything they bring out is just to such a high standard. I mean, of course they all have glitches and people find bugs and whatever, but nothing compared to their competitors. They really do go above and beyond fixing stuff. And I mean, even the other day I was seeing that, if you bought, I mean, how old is The Witcher now? Is it 2013? So 6 or 7 years old.
Something like that.
So they're giving anyone that's bought The Witcher back in 2013, if you're buying a PS5 or an Xbox Series X now, they'll give you it for free. So they're just going to upgrade you for free. And there aren't many companies that are prepared to do that. They all want to nickel and dime everyone. You know, they all want to be like, oh, you want it? Well, it's another 40 quid. You bought it 6 years ago, so you know, then show me the cash when you can have another version that's slightly higher res. You know, whereas CD Projekt Red are like, we've made all the money. Just have it. It's fine, because they're more interested in their fan base, because they know they're going to keep coming back. No,
I think I think your little rose-tinted glasses on the top of your head are maybe playing a little.
Hey, look, they flash as well. It's not dark enough in here. They flash to the point where I'm going to have a stroke, so I can't. Because I put them on Earth. I thought, I'll have them flashing, and I thought, no.
Well, I paid like only probably less than a year ago. I paid about 40 odd quid to have The Witcher 3 on my Switch.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, actually, I think the Switch is probably different. I think if it's the same, if it's the same platform, I guess is what I'm saying. Is if you've got it, if you bought it on PS3, then they're going to give you the upgrade for. They did for PS4. They upgraded it for free, and of course, what they want you to do is they say, here's the upgrade for free. You play the base game, but then obviously we're releasing all this other DLC. So they're interested in keeping their fan base, and then
with the idea of updates and new platforms and stuff. How do we feel about playing it now on a PS4 or an Xbox One Series X or whatever version you've got, compared to maybe waiting and getting it a few days later?
Well, you see, John, I think you and I live in a slightly different space to Wayne, because Wayne has he's the PC master race over there, right? Whereas you and I, we're essentially console
peasants.
Yeah, console peasants.
So Wayne's going to be experiencing it in its highest graphic.
Yeah, so he's, when it eventually goes into VR and all that stuff, he'll be having a whale of a time, whereas you and I will be sort of squinting at the sort of 420 screen we're looking at. But yeah, I think so I think the thing is that I'm not going to play it on PS4. I'm going to wait till the PS5 comes out, and I think it probably will be the first thing, because
they said that if you buy it on the PS4, you can get it on PS5.
Yeah, but then I was reading this other thing the other day saying about cross saves being an issue. So they were saying because it's the kind of game you're going to sink a lot of time into. You don't want to spend 30 hours doing it before the next generation console comes out, only to find.
You were just talking about how you were quite excited about replay ability.
It's a different kind of. If I have to restart, that's different. Replay is fine. If I've gone through it and then I'm like, oh, I'll go back to that and do it in a different way. Playing something for 10 hours and then losing that save, I'll never go back to it, just out of principle. I'll just be like, I'm done, but yeah, I think that's so I'm probably going to hold off for the next gen stuff. But I mean, for PC,
so have you ordered a PS5, or are you going?
Yeah, I've got it on pre-order, but I actually I tried to do it online, which was just impossible because everybody on the same day clicked the same link. So then I thought, well, there's a game just up the road, but no one's been going there because of the coronavirus. So I thought I'll just go up there and see if they've got any in stock in the store, that you can do. And I went up there and they had loads, because nobody was going into the shops. No one's going in to order them. Whereas normally they'd be queued around the block. I remember when GTA 5 came out, there must have been 500 people in the queue outside game just to pick up their hard copies.
Little sleeping bag around the corner on the night before, is that
I probably will. Well, I don't know. Actually, that is a bit sad. But do you know what? This time I've never done that before. But actually, do you know what? I might do it.
I did it for the release of the PlayStation Vita.
Okay. I love the Vita. Yeah,
I didn't sleep, but after work I finished, and this is when I was working in London. I went down to the game on Oxford Street.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, that's good.
And went down there and queued up outside, and I was probably about 15 or 16 deep. Where I hit it, and I was literally. I mean, this. Bear in mind, when did the Vita come out? What was it, about 2011, something like that?
Yeah, it was around then, yeah.
Even then, I was the oldest person in that queue.
Yeah. John, you're still the oldest person in the queue.
I know. It was quite a fun experience, because you're waiting for the midnight launch thing, and I got there, I don't know what time did I get there. I got there about 6:30 or whatever. Yeah. And an hour in, they came out and they brought kind of PlayStation branded cups of tea and coffee and snacks and things like that. And then when you got in, there was.
They were like, no, we haven't got any.
Sorry, guys. But
sorry, if the first 14 got them, and then the 15th one they didn't have any.
And then there was, but what was cool? I mean, there was a famous cosplayer lady. I don't really know cosplay, but she was there, and she signed my Vita box for some reason, and got the things and stuff. But they had.
She's not a cosplayer. That's just that crazy woman on Oxford Street. She signs everything. Yeah. I've got a shirt. We went out one night. She signed the back of it. Yeah, she's always there.
But one of the nightclubs down the road, they hired that out, so you could go in there and the whole PlayStation experience. Where you
that's so cool.
That's nice.
And they had drinks and stuff like that, and which sounds really good idea. But you go in there, and I was thinking, well, I don't want to be here with all these weird people and stuff. I want to go home.
I want to go home and play.
It's late. I want to go home.
I think what's interesting about that is that was a time when you would buy a product, you would open the product, you would play the product, right? And that would all happen within like 5 seconds of buying it, right? Whereas now you buy a PS5, you go home and plug it in, you update it for 7 hours. Then you download your game, which takes another 2 hours, and then there's an update for that.
Yeah, and then there's day one updates for that.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Or you start playing. You think, I'll get an early start. You start playing on it, and then halfway through that day of playing on it, there's an update which fixes all the things that you've had issues with that morning. And so I wonder, maybe I won't camp out, but I think because it's probably changed slightly from the days of things actually working out the box. Now it's like I'm sure that the things that have shipped already, they're fixing it left, right, and centre, whatever issues.
Did you read on the news today that they're doing they've
crunch?
Yeah,
I saw that.
Really, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
I don't know about yourself, Wayne, but Joe and myself, we, working in the industry that we work in, we sometimes, it's not really a crunch period, but there'll be times when a project, you've just got to put in a load of extra hours. But I can't get my head around the amount of extra hours that something like this.
Yeah, I mean, you and I, John, we come, our industry is rife with crunch culture. Less so when you get older and wiser like us, but when you're younger, it's part of the course, which is, you're doing a lot of late nights and early mornings and maybe working at the weekend. That's just the way it is. And thankfully, I think that's changed over time. People's mentality of, people that run businesses, their mentality has shifted a bit. But I think in the game industry, it's absolutely rife. I still think, every week there's another story about, if it's not abuse in the workplace, it's people, having to work late to get these games out and stuff. And, there's a bit of me that thinks it's not right. And, but then there's a bit of me that says, make it as good as you can.
Yeah.
Or give yourself more time. Delay it
it
again for a couple of months and get it done.
You delay it again. The knock-on effect for that is like obviously CD Red. They've got to make money to be able to pay the people. So if they put it back, even like a day or a week or whatever it may be, that delays the amount of time before they're getting any kind of payments in. So it's like this. What I was about to say, it's like this knock-on effect. Where they've already put it back twice.
It was meant to come out in. Was it March originally?
It was March, I think.
Yeah,
March, and then it was supposed to be September, and now it's November. So and I think it's just the nature of the beast of something so large, isn't it? I mean,
yes.
From what I've seen, it looks awesome. It looks amazing. And that just takes time. We all know that to make something really good does take time. It doesn't matter how many people you throw at it.
Yeah. The only thing I'm worried about is if they're having to go into crunch, what kind of problems are there that are still like either game breaking or unplayable?
There's crunch. We want to make that shiny. We want to make that more reflective. Kind of super sexy. Yeah. And then there's crunch like
this doesn't work.
Bugger, that's stuff.
Exactly. That's interesting actually, because like if it was any other developer, I'd be thinking like, oh, that sounds a bit dodgy, but expected. But with CD Projekt Red, they're so good and tight on all their stuff, and the quality is so high that if they're having to do it, then there must be some fundamental, there's like some of the missions just don't end, or or whatever. There's some problem. But then with something so vast like this, where you've got these sprawling options, and you've got all this multitude of different things. Yeah, I mean, how can they even play test that? I mean, they must just have like 1,000 people in a warehouse, 2 meters apart, all on screens, just checking the.
It's probably some form of AI, because I know was it Hello Games who did the No Man's Sky, which I really loved. I mean, I know there was a lot of hate for it because.
Man, now it's amazing.
I thought it was amazing. But what I found so amazing about it, apart from the scale and the fact that it's kind of like keeps going.
Was it where you pointed a laser gun at a rock and just mined
for days?
Yeah.
Imagine how much time I would have saved in Skyrim.
If you'd had a laser, it would have been great.
I'd have more minted in about 10 minutes. I wouldn't have needed 9 hours.
Actually, I must say that I played a bit of that game at the, No Man's Sky, and it had loads. I played it quite early on, and I think there's something to be said about adopted games early on. I
played it on launch, and I loved it. I went in with, and I think there was expectations that it was going to be, it's amazing, you can do everything, blah blah blah.
They did talk it up a bit.
He oversold it.
The problem is they oversold it. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you appreciate it for what it actually was, I thought it was amazing. And also, that's such a small team. But what I found really amazing about it is that they actually created these satellite kind of like robots in the game themselves to test it, and they just sent them out into the universe.
Okay. Oh, that's so cool.
Still going. And they're still getting the data back. They have literally created their own probes to go into the game
to find problems.
To find information about the game, what's going on, what's working right, and finding things that they'd never ever imagined would be created. How bonkers is that?
That is awesome.
That's smart.
Especially if one of them comes back and says, "I've confirmed there is intelligent life out there," and you're like, "What?"
You won't believe it.
It would be like
Johnson actually exists on this planet as well, and it is a big shit show. It's amazing.
It'll be like the Stargate episode where the what's his name, Jack O'Neill, comes to the door and says, "You've solved the riddle. Now you're going to space to solve it for us in real life." And we're like, "Oh shit!"
Their probes, the probes that Hello Games has sent out, meet the probes that the AI, another probe.
I like that. Yeah,
I bet, and it's like a meeting of probes.
Yeah, no,
it's like,
the game
it's like
is
an
going,
Alexa and Google talking to each other.
The game is now going. We've discovered
real
life.
There is life. Oh, I like the idea of they send the probe out and then there's a knock at the door and it's the real probe.
So I just wonder, maybe
they had something like that.
I think you'd have to test everything.
Yeah.
There's no way that people can sit down and play it. I mean, I can't imagine that, having to sit down and play through every branching tree. Yeah, but I mean, how many people do you have?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Between us, we're going to sink hundreds and hundreds of hours, and we're each going to see slightly, some same stuff, but some slightly different stuff, etc. And all of those variations that are going to keep on going, and that will be probably 0.0001% of all the variations that are available. So,
and I think that is something else that's quite interesting about, the sort of, moving from board games and sitting with bits of paper and drawn pictures and rolling dice, moving into sort of computer games now, which is that, like, you're right, the possibility and the openness of the world. It just, I find it sometimes slightly overwhelming if it's not done right. Like some of the like Assassin's Creed games where there's a lot of busy work, like you said, like go and collect a feather. You've picked up one of 2,000 feathers, and a bit inside me dies. Whereas I feel like with Cyberpunk, like hopefully they'll tackle that in a little bit more of a sort of a respect of your time kind of way. Because I don't like games that are just like. Yeah, exactly. I don't mind doing loads of stuff if they understand that maybe I'm only going to play for 15 minutes or an hour at a time.
Or at the end of the story mission, you meet a new fixer that can offer you better weapons. There's a reward behind it.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Those fetch missions and things like that, I always feel like a bit aggrieved by them because they don't really go anywhere.
It's almost like lazy person quests.
It really is.
Like
it's
lazy
padding.
developer quests. Yeah.
It's like our game is. Sorry, go on, John.
No, I was just saying, I'm playing Zelda Twilight Princess on my Wii at the moment, just with the little one. And what I like about that is that, yes, it is kind of open world for, at the time and what have you, but there is kind of all the little side things, like, there was to get the cradle from the monkey, right near the beginning, there's the monkeys have been in the village and they've been nicking stuff, and the lady she wants her cradle back, and you've got to get so there's this little village, and you've got to get the cat back to the vendor so you can then buy the slingshot so you can shoot the bee net. But to get the cat, you need to catch a fish. To get the fish, you've got to get the fishing rod. To get the fishing rod, you've got to get the cradle.
I don't mind those sequences.
No, absolutely, because it's all got a reason. So to get the cradle, I had to go up and get the grass so I could do the whistle to call the hawk, to shoot the hawk at the monkey. There, I don't mind doing all these little things because the payoff there's a proper payoff of like moving forward. So now I've got the fishing rod, now I've got the slingshot, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, you gave Assassin's Creed as an example. You know, collect these 2,000 feathers.
Oh my god, I've played all those games. Except I didn't finish the last one, Odyssey, but I played all of them, and I did. It's just like
I just
struggled.
The problem is like, yeah, they'll say like collect 600 horseshoes. So throughout your gameplay, you know, the missions are probably only the proper story missions probably only 10 hours, but they want to brag that it's a 50-hour game, so they add all this extra guff in, and yeah. So then you go around and you're constantly collecting all these extra bits and pieces, and at the end of it, the reward is something like, great, now your cape can be blue. And you're like, oh my god. It's like, you know, but the thing is if you've collected 400 of those, you have to go to the full 600 of them because you've got that far. You're like, well, I've spent all this time. I have to justify it somehow. Now, at the end of it, it's just like, yeah, now your hat can be green. It's like, oh, it's just.
I don't see the point of that in single player games either. I mean, if it's multiplayer, you know, it's a bragging right. It's like I've put the time and effort in to go and do this mission. Yeah. But in a single player game, it's like, what is the point?
Well, actually, you know, the one that has done it really well is the Ghost of Tsushima. So I don't know if you played that, John. I've been
playing a bit of that.
Because that actually does it quite well, which is like, it sort of says, here's a load of extra side missions, but it doesn't matter if you don't do them. Yeah. But the rewards for some of those side missions are quite good, and they build up your armor and all this stuff. But they do it in a way that it doesn't waste too much of your time. Like, you know, if you've got like half an hour, you can go off and do a side mission and progress. Whereas,
but at least you're benefiting though.
Yes, exactly. Whereas with like Assassin's Creed and some of those games, they
like
kind of
Division as well. I mean, I really enjoyed the first Division. The second Division, not as much. But the first Division, you know, you do some of those side missions. You go and say, you know, you go and clear a stronghold or whatever, and you would actually get some pretty good gear.
Some items,
I know it was a bit of a grind, and it was, you know, bullets, buttons, and we can talk all about that. But I actually quite enjoyed the feeling of the game, and you know, that kind of risk reward. You know, I'm going into an area where my guns and stuff aren't quite as good, and I'm going to run battle through. But I'm going to get some really good shit at the end.
Yeah, that was. I mean, you know, you and I have played the Division, John, but like I think Wayne lived it for a while.
He was
when the second one came out, I didn't. He sort of disappeared into a room for about 2 weeks. Came out and was like, I'm done. You know, but like you did consume that Division 2 I remember when it came out.
The thing with the Division that I think was its downfall was a lot of people had misconceptions about it in the beginning. And it was literally, it was basically take World of Warcraft and instead of axes and hammers and swords, give people guns. And that's what it was. But for some reason, people got this idea into the head that it was going to be like some sort of crazy FPS shooter with, you know, one shot, one kill, people, you know, realistic, you know, like you say, bullet sponges. No such thing in that. But the Division was really, I enjoyed it because there was that, you know, you went out to improve your gear so that things became easier, or you synergized with a group, you know. So there was that that gear, basically like your skills and your gear, you could synergize with other people, or you could make a solo PvP or PvE build. So there was that, you know, there was those rewards for going out and doing those side quests.
And I think that the second one, I mean, I really enjoyed the first one, and actually I thought they made a lot of improvements for the second one.
They did.
I think that they did. You know,
I think all it was for the Division 2 for me was it just felt like it was a real kind of rinse and repeat.
More of the same.
I know there was more going on.
Yes, I agree.
It felt like, you know, all the same kind of side quests, the same type of enemies, and it was a nice setting, and you know, there were other mechanics in there which were quite fun. But I just felt like I played that game. And that's what I felt with Destiny as well. Destiny done a very similar thing. You know, when Destiny first came out, I thought, wow, this is going to be amazing. You know, really tight first-person shooter. Same people that done Halo, going to nail it. It's going to be awesome. This kind of like space operatic environment where we combine a bit of magic with loads of tech, and you know, there's going to be aliens. We can fly here, and actually, it wasn't. And then, you know, and it was all right. It was a good shooter, but it just ended up feeling like a rinse and repeat.
I agree.
And against Destiny 2, which was a real shame, because I kind of felt like there was a really good opportunity there for them to really push.
Can I just say something that we're all thinking? The story in the Division and the Division 2 is really crap. Like I like the initial idea of like everyone's been ill, and then it's a wasteland. That's fine. But when they're trying to build on top of that, of like,
I'm just waiting for the alarm thing to go off, so I'm going to go get my kit, and then we're going to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just waiting for your watch to flash. The story, just and I think that's a problem with that game for me. Is that like I want to invest, if I'm going to invest my time into like a sort of third-person game that's going to be as epic as that, and there's a big end game part to it. Yeah. I want to feel like the foundation of that story has already resonated with me before I get to that point, if you know what I mean, before the end game starts. And I felt with both the Divisions, even though I did it, I am a mass murderer and must have killed about 10,000 people with my SMG. I did feel that like the story, I didn't care about it. I just, it was just a grinding game, really. So we've got a fourth member joining us now. This is the owner of CD Projekt Red.
Tell us about the crunch.
We want to talk about we're here to discuss ray tracing. So basically, let me just make sure I'm still recording. You're still going, John. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Good. Where did we get to? Well,
but basically, I was just saying
we were slagging off.
We were slagging off the Division, even though we all enjoyed it.
Three of the biggest games of the last.
Yeah. So we could definitely do better. I know we could. But yeah, I mean, I did still enjoy that RPG, and I did think that that it was good. And actually, I didn't mind the grind on that because I did feel like I was progressing.
You did feel you were progressing though. There were quite a load of missions in there where you'd battle through, and it was in some places it was quite a battle, with some of those big tanks that take all the and stuff like that. And you get to the test, and then it was kind of like a new knee pad that didn't improve on where you were. And I kind of feel like that there should have been a mechanic in there where doesn't matter what level you are or who you are. Whenever you get to that, it would give you a slight upgrade. Just looking at your inventory and go, okay, you're going to get a new knee pad, but it's going to be better than the knee pad you've got. As opposed to it's going to be worse.
But that's because
but that's what the end game is, though. It's that having to do missions over and over and over again to get the items that you want. I mean, that's just the nature of that's just the nature.
Wayne, you were
MMOs.
getting down to the point where your gear sets were like
by 0.1%.
Yeah. Which is just like, that's taking it to a whole new level. John, I mean, that's console versus PC gamer there, John.
I'm big picture.
Blue sky thinking. Yeah, absolutely.
But that's the thing is like in those games, it comes down to it's the grind for the end game gear.
Well, what did you do after the end game then? And you've got this gear. What did you do?
Then you roam the PvE, the PvP area, and you.
Worst gear. Yeah.
But that's the thing is, and then you get called OP, and this build's broken, and you're hacking, and it's like, no, dude, I've leveled my gear up to a point where I can't go any higher. Yeah. And when I shoot you, you're going to die. It's like
that's just the way it is.
But that's the thing is, games like that is if you put in the time. And the effort into getting that gear, it shows at the end. And I mean, that's a problem where you get people that are coming in from a day at work. I mean, it's like that one meme where there's that guy crying, and it's like, I've just come home from a hard day at work. All I wanted to do was have some fun, and there's this kid up on top with like all the gear because he spent all day playing. and that's the problem is you get casuals that can't compete because. They don't have the gear, and then you've got these guys that have put all the time in to play the game, have got all the best gear, and you've got this massive imbalance.
The gap in between.
And you got to try and bridge that gap. But I mean, they did an all right job when they brought out like the designated game modes, where they kind of the higher levels were brought down, the lower level gear was brought up, so there was this balance where it then became.
But it doesn't last very long, though. That's the thing, like because then suddenly, because I guess what is good about those games is that it does cater for like the filthy casuals, as they call them, and like John, you and I sit in that weird void of we put a lot of time into it, but we're not going to go to sort of the Wayne level of
the math of your build.
Yeah, exactly, the math of your build. But it does also cater for that extreme level of I'm at the tip of the spear kind of gaming as well. So like the fact that it can cater for all of that. I think while it has its problems, I think it is, it is credit to the developer, because they obviously have to take all of that into consideration. So that's something we'd like
to happen in Cyberpunk. Do you think?
Well, I hope so. I hope so.
Well, I mean, the first one's not going to be multiplayer, so there's not going to be that gap. But
which
the second one,
I'm really pleased about, because the multiplayer thing now is just exactly what we're saying. You know, you've got people that can spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and they like nailing it, and then you just chip up and you want to have a bit of fun, and you just get your ass handed to you.
Yeah, but they did say that the multiplayer will be 2022.
Yeah. But the multiplayer will be though.
Well, there's people have guessed that it's going to be a kind of a GTA 6 or GTA 5 type feel, where it's this open world. You can kind of you play a single player game in GTA, and then you can play your the online version. Yeah, kind of. But I mean, that's a speculation.
What would be awesome is if they did just resurrect the original old school RPG tabletop game, but in this kind of like world that they've created, so that then you can create your own story, if you will. Yeah. You could then call in, say, 4 people. So you could have a team and play. And then you could be the games master. I know how much you love that, Wayne. You could be the games master. And then you could run your own kind of
You could do your own mini. That would be awesome. So like building your own levels.
Amazing.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
You can build your own,
That's an excellent idea, John. That's too good for them to have thought of it. So we have to copyright that immediately. That's a game worth playing.
How do you give me money for that right now?
You don't. I sign off and then I make a quick phone call.
I didn't sign anything here on this podcast. So,
Are you sure?
All ideas are mine.
Yeah,
you clicked accept without reading the LUA.
Yeah, did you click enter? You click participate in Zoom call, so that automatically gives me the rights to all ideas.
Zoom probably own that now. So
that's true. Yeah. As soon as you mentioned it, someo's gone off and they're already doing it. Check Twitter.
I would be really interested in that. Say sort of like we all get together and we decide to have a game, and as opposed to just having like a
that'd be awesome
or anything like that.
And I don't even mind how basic that is, even if it's just like you go to this room and this happens, and you go to this room and there's like 4 of these turrets. Or
surely you could do it. It'd have to be as an accessible thing. I mean, you look at.
But you can, because Arma 3 has it. It's called Zeus. Basically, what they could do is exactly what you've said, is give you the city that they've created for Cyberpunk now, and then in it give you the tools to be able to spawn NPCs and give them dialogue. And in Arma 3, you've got exactly that. It's called Zeus, and you see a map view of the game, and you can spawn AI, and you can put in tanks, you can put in whatever. You can give them missions, and
that was the same for the Resident Evil 3 remake that just came out. That had a whole multiplayer section where one person. You're one person sort of watching everyone else, and you look at your map in an isometric way where you can drop monsters and various traps, and then there's 4 other people playing through in third person, and then they just have to navigate these sort of miniature mazes, or like complete certain quests based on whatever the games master has decided.
I think that'd be awesome.
That would be amazing.
That'd be really good. Being able to have a simple system, so you even kind of like drop downs and easy kind of like easy bridging ways of putting your story together, so you can make it as long or as simple as you want, and then being able to call in sort of like either randomers or make it available for random. Because I mean games like Little Big Planet on the PlayStation 3, that had a form of that, where you'd upload Mario Maker and what have you, create levels and people go off and play it. I think that would be really interesting. I know GTA 5 has done something similar to that, haven't they? You can create your own kind of
but I mean that's a modded community. You can do that.
But I think
that's nice. There's definitely something in that.
And going, well, actually, in my playthrough, I went through this corporate section, and I'd really like to explore the corporate world a bit more. So maybe I'd like to put together a corporate story. So you put in some of the main protagonists, that you experienced on there, and they're kind of you create a whole new story. I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good. I mean, ultimately,
and it would tie back to the pen and paper.
Exactly.
Because it's a proper
old school, new school.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll get hired as a consultant, John, and you can, because I mean, someone's got to have an idea. Somewhere. I mean, I think I'll
definitely get hired with some kind of title that has "car" in it.
The truth is that it will be a single. You'll have one gun and you'll just run around the city with 60 other people not interacting. That's probably what's going to happen to start with.
Yeah, you know? I think maybe that's where I was like being a bit derogatory about Division and Destiny specifically.
Yeah, you did come down hard on that. Yeah.
When I was first thinking about Destiny, I was thinking, well, actually, that would be amazing. That there'll be everybody playing this game there. And, you know, you could literally, you know, you could be playing the game and we, oh, why don't we just meet up by the big sphery thing? And then we meet up and then we can go off and play. But it didn't quite work like that. You know, it's limited. And like with Hello Games' you know, the No Man's Sky, everyone is actually in that game. It's just, it's so large.
Yeah,
that
you can't
any chance of meeting them.
Yeah.
But I know they've changed that recently. But
yeah, you got the hub.
That was the lovely premise of it. You know, it was a pervasive world where whatever choices you make, whatever you do, is recorded, and that is there. So
I can't imagine for 1 second that Project Red aren't looking at all of this and thinking,
well, I mean,
how
they
can
had
we make
Mike.
This?
They got Mike Pondsmith. So
yes,
for all we know, he could have said, "I want this city as." You know, like what you've just said, give us the tools to be able to run it as a GM game in here.
Yeah.
Because again, like you were saying, John, about, you know, the fact you could just go off and be a miner, you know, just for like a day or whatever. I quite like the idea of like going off and being one of these sort of fixers, just sitting there in the corner and selling goods. You know, I could just leave it running in the background while I'm working. Someone pops into the shop. Oh, hang on, you know, I could, you know, I don't.
That would be lovely, because, you know, you could get like some kid in America who's like bunked off school or whatever, comes in and he wants to buy something like a little piece of hardware that you just so happen to have. That would be awesome.
Exactly.
Or
you could
go, like an asshole gives that.
You can grind to build those parts, which you then sell back to the community. And I think there's something, you know, again, Fallout's tried to do some of that in the past, and I feel like, you know, that could be something that would be good for the multiplayer. But ultimately, I think, you know, it will probably be like a big part of it will probably be like the Division do, which is they do their kind of timed, you know, for today only, you can go and do this mission. And, you know, which is fine if you're not working that day or don't have kids or any of the above. But like, you know, it's when some of those time things, I think, you know, it does make me feel excluded from some of the from getting some of the gear, and it actually turns me off against some games where I'm like, well, those guys could go and do that for that week and I couldn't. Now they have all this stuff and look really cool, and I'm still wearing Bermuda shorts with a shotgun, you know. So
I don't mind cosmetics. I don't mind the cosmetics that much. It's when you start getting gear from that kind of situation that grinds me a bit.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I mean, obviously, Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be quite a single player.
Exactly. But, you know, again, like with the branching storylines and that, with all these things, they have to have key points. So maybe everyone goes off and does their own thing, but then they come back for these sort of, you know, specific points within the game. I think they can't not do that, you know.
Well, I mean, if you watch the trailers and stuff, all of it ties into that, where you start as either one of the three starting characters, then you meet up with your buddy in the afterlife, which is the pub for the nightclub for the solos, and then you meet your fixer, the fixer, that big black dude that's in one of the cutscenes. I don't know if you've seen him.
I'm just switching glasses now. Sorry, I realize I can't actually see anything.
And then your storyline progresses from there. So you do kind of come into the main storyline from the three different starting points.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's obviously going to be one main story that has different branches of how you can complete it, but I think it'll be, you know, maybe 5 different cutscenes to end it in, depending whether you killed this person or killed that person.
And I'm okay with that. And I always like it when I feel like I've been on a journey that maybe someone else playing the game hasn't. I mean, I know a billion people have been on that same journey, but like it does feel like it's very unique to you. And I do like those stories that make you feel like that. Like I said, like Mass Effect made me feel like that until the last 1 minute of the game when I realized that it was all just a lie. But you know, during the journey, it was good to kind of, you know, find out that if you'd have recruited this certain person, then that mission that you did would have gone slightly differently, or if you'd have had a different conversation, that mission would have lasted longer. You know,
that's exactly what they said in one of the Nightwires, City Nightwire, is that depending on your background and what you know, you can like for example, one of the missions is you meet this fixer, and if you're a corporate, you have no idea who he is. If you're a solo, you don't know who he is. But if you're a street kid and you grew up with the gangs, you know who he is. So when he mentions a name, you go, oh yeah, this guy, I know him. And then suddenly now he's got a different outlook to you, rather than going, you're some stupid moron that knows nothing about my way of life. You're now like, hey, yeah, I understand that, and you get different outcomes for that mission. So I mean, there was the one that they showed you was the one with the corp where you get picked up by that woman, and you've got the two big bodyguards. Now if you're a corporate, the way that she deals with, the way that corps deal with people and the way that their minds work. So if you're a corp, you can go, oh yeah, but if you do this or if you do that. Whereas if you're a solo, you don't get those options. It's now, do I fight my way out of this, or do I just let this happen? So yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of ways that the storyline plays out very differently. You'll make friends with certain people and make enemies with other people depending on what your starting role is.
And that's exciting, because I feel like so many games just start with a basic, you all start from the same place, you all have the same relationships, and then it's like how you branch out from there that changes your story. Whereas if some of those things are already predetermined before you start, there's something quite nice about that, which is like you already have a history with that particular area of the city, or and I think that's something that's interesting as well, which is that I think that's often overlooked, which like the city itself is its own character. Like in GTA as well, like the city is its own character. It's got loads of things going on. It's such an essential part to the story that you can go to anywhere and do anything at any time. And I feel like sometimes that gets overlooked when people start talking about, what's driving things forward, because you can be walking down the street going for one particular mission. I'd say like Ghost of Tsushima, you could be walking over a grassy knoll to go to this particular, one particular sort of side quest, and get sidetracked by seeing a fox, which you can then chase. And John, I think John, you you gotta love Wi-Fi. Look, you're looking like it's technology.
Well, it's just such a lovely sunny day. I thought I'd come outside.
So is this where you're going to show us the giant cardboard cyberpunk car you've been building?
Shannon's finished in the studio now, so because she's doing some momentum.
Oh, okay. Cool.
What I will show you is what I've been getting my old consoles and stuff.
Yeah, it's the shelves of history.
All my games are under there, so I've got loads of games.
So have you been looking back into old retro games recently then?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, when we moved house, sorry, mate, this will be really dull, but when I moved house, I ended up selling kind of like most of a lot of my old gaming stuff, apart from my Dreamcast. I kind of kept the Dreamcast. I love the Dreamcast. But and I regretted it soon. Yeah, I regretted it as soon as I oh god. Now I've got multiple screens going on. It's all gone wrong. There we go.
There you go.
I just massively regretted selling everything. So now I'm buying.
You tracked it all. You tracked down the buyers and got it all back.
I wish I still had my original Xbox. The original.
Yeah, I didn't have. I never had an original Xbox. I had the 360. Had the 360, but I never got the original. I was PlayStation at that point.
It was all my game saves. So, but
no, John.
I don't have any more.
Did you not? You couldn't back it up then? I guess.
I didn't think about it really. To be brutally honest, mate, I'm sure you can. I think you can.
Yeah, bro.
So you gave away years of your life.
But more importantly, looking back at the game prices now, like what I sold a lot of my stuff at, I had some quite limited stuff. I mean, there was a game that I really loved called, which was Stubbs the Zombie, where you played it was a set in the 1950s kind of world, and you play this kind of, you play a zombie, and you're kind of like a normal 50s American house husband type chap who goes off to work and what have you, but you get eaten and you become a zombie, and then you have to go and eat people's brains to keep going, and you go into
of course
movie studios and stuff, and it's all 50 things. It's quite fun.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that game, and so I thought, I want to get that game again. I reckon the kids would really enjoy roaming around eating people's brains and stuff. It was quite fun. It's like about 80 quid to buy now.
No.
I'm like, what the
It's ridiculous. Some of those, yeah. I mean, the box games. I had a copy of it was Snake Eater, like the third Metal Gear Solid, but it was like the special edition one that came with like a disc that was like the making of and stuff like that. That's sitting in the loft somewhere, and I bought it for like 20 quid, and it's like 150 quid or something. It's insane because it just came out at the end where people just bought it as a sort of little extra thing, and now people are mad for it.
My Dreamcast collection is probably where the majority of the money is. I mean, I've got Cannon Spike, which is an all right kind of like third-person twin stick shooter type thing.
Yeah,
it's not brilliant, but it was only released in certain territories, and in the PAL territory, it was only released in Ireland as a kind of like as a limited gift thing.
Yeah,
that goes for just under 200 quid now.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, and also it's never the games that you think the most popular games that are ever going to pull that kind of money. So like Cyberpunk, for example, when it comes out, everybody's going to have a copy, so it will never be worth anything unless it's signed by the voice actors or whatever. There's something different about it. But
I do wonder about this though, because
it's different with PC games.
Well, you just download like 1 million PC games on a Humble Bundle or something.
The
problem like £4.
Yeah, I mean, I've got games that like I've literally got box sets that are sitting in a shelf that you can't get any money for either. Yeah. So it's not like they get value like a game cartridge, because there's copies of it everywhere. So it's a very different market. Whereas like I could literally throw them in the bin because there's no point in reselling them, and I can't play them because they either run on old versions of Windows that don't get supported now in Windows 10.
Yeah.
So it's just like they're just sitting together.
They just gather dust.
Surely you can just go and buy an old computer just to specifically install it and have a really.
You can. Yeah, you could, but I mean, that's the problem, is you're going to have a really bad experience.
Yeah, because you want everything, and surely half of them you can just download on Steam, like John said, in a bundle for like £3. So just devalues all. And like now, I haven't bought any sort of hard copies of games for ages. I bought I got like a special edition of The Last of Us 2, which had a hard copy of the game. That's the first one I reckon I bought for about 2 years. Everything's digital now. Just download it all digitally. So there's no resellability factor. There's none of that's worth anything. Whereas some of the old PS2 games I've got, some of those are gaining, £1 here and there as they get,
But absolutely, but that's why I say sort of like, I do think that's going to continue on, because I do think the, gaming, quite rightly, wrongly, however you want to, whatever your viewpoint, and kind of like what Wayne's got with his PC, it is all going to go digital. It is all going to be sort of like, it is going to be a game as service. You are going to play it on like your Google Stadia or Apple.
Well, they're pushing that Xbox Game Pass.
Not Stadia.
Just to, maybe. Well, you don't know. But like, while we're talking about that, the Xbox Game Pass might be the greatest thing that's ever been invented for gamers. Like, you have, I mean, they're killing it at the moment with,
I agree.
With the accessibility and the backwards compatibility of games. And, I mean, Sony are sort of, they had such a strong console launch with the PS4, and it had such a huge backing, and they had brilliant first party games. And then you've got Xbox sort of trembling at the knees the whole time, sort of not quite sure what to do, not having really that many great first party games. And now with the launch of these new consoles, they're like, well, we've been kind of slowly building up our backwards compatibility catalog. We're introducing Game Pass, which is, subscribe per month like Netflix, and then download the games that we have and play them whenever you like. And, and they've really nailed it. And it's not just kind of backwards compatible games or like older games, which a lot of the PlayStation Now stuff is, which is just like, oh, remember that game from 10 years ago? Well, it's free now, or you can download it and play a really crap version of it on PlayStation Now. They've got Game Pass, which is like Flight Simulator comes out today, and it's on Game Pass. So you already own it, if you're already
with Bethesda. Since they bought Bethesda, now they're going to have firsts and stuff like that.
Well, that was it. Is that their first party was so weak in that, like, they had a lot of people contributing to games in the Xbox, but inevitably they'd end up on the PlayStation or going to PC, etc., very quickly. Whereas PlayStation have always been like, here's all our first party games. You can't have any of them. You can't have like Spider-Man and God of War and all these games because they're ours, and that's what sells our systems. Now Xbox have bought, Microsoft have bought Bethesda. Sony must be like, oh, whoops, because now they've got Doom and Fallout and all of these brilliant
Prey.
And Prey, so they've got all of these and many more that people love, and suddenly you're like, now it's shifted over to them. I think they've got it sorted. I mean, they did pay $7.5 billion.
Yeah,
that's the difference between Microsoft and Sony, though, isn't it? And it's really interesting that you said at the beginning, sort of like, you know, the difference in their approach. You know, Sony had all of this kind of like cachet at the beginning of this current console generation, the PS4, because of the way they handled it. But then Microsoft is obviously playing a bit of a longer game, because Microsoft is a software company, so everything that they're really good at doing software, whereas Sony is more of a hardware company and is really good at doing hardware. So there's always going to be sort of like that. And now that there is that shift in sound towards the more digital side of things, then, you know, it's playing into Microsoft's hands even better.
Oh yeah.
They've got what 30-40 years worth of experience of being arguably one of the best at software there's out.
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, just going back, which is why I do think that the physical copies, for me personally, and I think there's lots of people like me, like to have that collectability. I like collecting. You know, like some people like to collect books or figurines or comics or whatever it may be. I like to collect video games. Now, I've got an app that I recently downloaded that allows me just to scan in the barcodes of all my apps. Of all my games, and you know, just of the ones that I've scanned. So I haven't done my Vita, I haven't done my Game Gear, I haven't done a few of the other things. I've got like 560 individual games, like just and that's just storage. Now, some of those are going to be worth £1, some of those are going to be worth £10, some of those are going to be worth a bit more. But I kind of think that this next lot, you know, this next generation, because everything is going to be moving digital, the physical copies will be worth more. Not necessarily worth more, but
maybe over time,
they're more collectible
runs. Yeah,
from a collector's point of view, there'll be. I mean, I don't know if you guys have got the Evercade, you know, the little Evercade thing that's kind of like.
I think I played it at yours. Is it? Yeah, I played it at yours once, I think.
This, you know, I really love the Evercade, and I'd really recommend it. So it's a little kind of like retro handheld thing, but their whole stick is that they've got kind of like official licenses from like different publishing houses, and then they actually produce a physical cart. And that physical cart comes in a physical box, and it comes with a little booklet that talks about the games.
I have a feeling, John, you have a lot of vinyl.
I do have a lot of vinyl.
You know, because I think there's some. But there is absolutely something to be said about that, because, and I think also what it does now is that the kind of wandering into a shop and buying a game for like 30 or 40 quid and having a hard copy, I think that's kind of slowly dying off. And now it's like, if you want to buy a copy that you think you either want something a little bit special with that game, or you you want a sort of a copy of it that's, you know, slightly more limited edition, that maybe it will be more of a collector's item and worth more. You know, those box sets now start at about 200 or 300 quid. Like, I got the Division 2 set that came with the guy with all his like fabric jacket and all the details and stuff, and I think that was like 200 quid or something like that. And like, you know,
or you could get a mask that gets mold in it.
Yeah, well, was that the Fallout one?
The Fallout 2.
That's right. Yeah,
mold issues.
Yeah, but do you know what? I reckon anyone that kept the ones that had mold issues, they're probably worth
more.
Loads. You know, that mold is worth money.
There's always going to be an idiot. There's always going to be an idiot like me that really wants to have that. Yeah, that really wants to have that box game or that element or that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but I think it will become more unique. And I'd be surprised if there isn't a whole load of. I mean, I haven't looked into it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Cyberpunk doesn't have, you know, the Keanu Reeves box set that you can buy that will be like 600 quid. And
you can get the figures already.
You can get the Xbox, the Cyberpunk 2077 Xbox.
Okay, yeah.
Themed and stuff like
See,
that.
I think those ones, those limited edition consoles. Sorry, Wayne, we're just going to talk about consoles for a minute. Those limited edition consoles probably are, again, a good collector's item. You know, because they're not out for very long, and you know, like you said, if the localized sales of those aren't very high, so you know, in a few years they might be worth.
But also they're limited sales of them too, because they'll only do like 100,000 or a million of them.
So the collectability.
They are collector's items.
Yeah. So
what I like about just going back to Wayne's point about the PC, you know, he's got old games that he can't really play.
Yeah.
So he's got to wait until you can download them or whatever because of the experience on the machine. That's kind of what I quite like about the previous generation of consoles that we had. You know, you could update to a point, but then you can leave it and you can still just play everything. You know, the game still works brilliantly. Even my Mega Drive, it still works exactly as it should do.
Is that the same Mega Drive you've always had?
I wish it was. Again,
is that the one? Because
you paid twice as much.
Because John used to play a lot. Because I remember
the amount I had the Mega CD as well, and the price that I sold my Mega CD at with the games I had, I was just full of regret. It's just an inner deep regret.
Yeah, but then there's that part of you that's like, right, I've got to get rid of everything, and then, like you said, the next day you're like, why did I do that? You know.
Yeah.
But we did, because we used to play a lot. Like, when I stay over yours, we play a lot of Mega Drive games. So like Streets of Rage, we used to play a lot. And
Speedball 2.
Oh, Speedball 2, yeah, exactly. Sensible Soccer, yeah, all that stuff. Yeah, and I think you know, because I do have a PC as well that's sort of tucked away in the corner. I'm sorry to say that I do have a PC, and I do think it's amazing. Like, I put some games on there are just incredible. Like, the quality is just brilliant. But for
I have been toying with like maybe getting a little gaming PC going, but I'm just kind of a little bit.
Well, the reason I actually bought it originally was because I was doing some work online. I needed to check some design work on the Mac as well as the PC, because one of my clients was using a lot of PC stuff, and I needed to make sure that they were seeing what I was seeing, etc. So it was really an excuse, you know, that I needed to get a PC to do that. And then when I did get it, I just thought, well, I'll get a decent one because I want to play games on it as well. And then, I found that I've played a few things on it, but I think I feel like it's less of a sort of pick up and play kind of feel to me. Like with consoles, I just sort of turn it on, start it up, and it's done. Whereas with the PC, I feel like I turn it on, and you know, there's usually like, have you downloaded the 3.56x driver this week? You know, and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I'm not quite in that culture of that part yet with the PC.
Yeah, PC's more maintenance, but also not more maintenance, but it's a commitment. You kind of have to be willing to go through that to be able to get that experience.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, like the older games, you can get backwards compatibility things, like you get emulators and stuff. So you can play whatever you want to, really. But, I mean, unless it's a really, really good game, there's no point in going back to it, because there's so much new stuff out there that'll cloud it.
I mean, this is the mentalness of my life, Wayne. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
No, but you're right.
I've got games on the Xbox and GameCube and PlayStation 1 and 2 and stuff that, you know, I'm going, I'd love to play that. That'd be awesome. And I'm thinking, well, actually, I've only got about 20 minutes. Why don't I have a quick go on such and such on my Switch or
But then do you find
also you ruin some of the games for yourself? Because I found that I've gone back to a game that, like, in my head is the best thing ever. I've gone back into it and go, Jesus Christ, this is shit.
So bad.
And I've ruined the game for myself. And
what's the one game where you have gone back and it is still as good as you remember? Is there one?
That's a tough question, because I don't know. There's always something, though, isn't there? There's always like you start playing it, and it could even just be a few years old, and suddenly the mechanics in these games and the fine tuning of them is so good now that even to go back a couple of years, you really notice that, like, I can't dodge roll or I can't lock on. You know, you notice things like that now you just take for granted. So
for me,
I still play GTA quite regularly.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's Speedball 2. I think Speedball 2. I mean, if they release Speedball 2 now, you know, Bitmap Brothers did a little, you know, just maybe polished it up a little bit. I think it would still stand up now, because you know, it's got the speed, it's got the movement, it's simplistic. The gameplay's there, and you know, I still play that now, and it's still good.
Yeah, I've always loved that game.
That's kind of cyberpunk themed, you know. It's a dystopian.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, you know, sort of just to sort of throw it back to that a little bit. Obviously,
to the actual topic that was
to the topic of the show. No, but all this is relevant because, like, it does sort of come full circle in as much as, like you were saying, like a lot of the games and sort of things that have influenced the cyberpunk sort of genre. Because I mean, it is actually much older than the role playing game. So the history of it is like sort of 60s and 70s, sort of techno Philip K. Dick novels talking about dystopian futures and augmented humans, and then you've got like Blade Runner and you know, comics like Judge Dredd and, you know, 2000 AD. All those things were around for a long time before they, in fact, was Speedball 2 around before Cyberpunk came out? Because a lot of those, was it late 80s?
Well, Bitmap Brothers were kind of like synonymous through the Amiga area, weren't they? The Amiga area. So kind of mid late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. So it would have been around the same time when, I guess, a lot of this that particular style.
You had Rollerball, which it was essentially based on, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
What's the geezer's name? What's the actor's name? James McMahon. Is it James McMahon? James McMahon. Don't know.
James McCann. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Is it James McCann?
I think so. Yeah.
Have we just made the name of an actor?
No.
Caan.
Right. No, James Caan.
James Caan.
That sounds Caan. James Caan. He's the guy from The Godfather, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
same guy.
He was in kind of like this dystopian future, kind of like, which is essentially roller derby now. But, and that was rollerball, and that's kind of where they got the idea for Speedball.
Yes, yeah,
and then, I think that was the 70s. I think that film came out in the 70s.
Yeah, so I think all of those sort of I'm going to Google it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the thing is that there was a whole sort of movement towards this kind of a future where everything doesn't quite work or is a bit broken, but it's all a bit futuristic. So, like the history of the role-playing game
1975.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, so all of that stuff. So so then you've got like Star Wars and Blade Runner and all those sort of that sort of push of the 80s sci-fi and Terminator and all of those things that were around pre. The creation of the actual RPG, which I think some guy just came along and said, I'll just take all of that and I'll put it in a box with like 4 sheets of paper and then I'll sell it, and now it's turned into this huge franchise. I mean, I know they made all the money when they made The Witcher. And I know they had a lot of the money before they made The Witcher. Then they made The Witcher, now they have all the money. Now they've taken all the money and they're now building this game, which I think, personally, I'd be massively disappointed if it isn't one of the greatest of all times. I really do feel
their stock market went through the roof when they announced Cyberpunk.
Right, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, they're worth so much money. They've got Netflix shows.
Whether it's going to be the greatest game of all time, I don't know, because how could you define that? It could be the greatest game for you of all time.
Yeah.
Well, I've always wanted a robot head, and I think that's probably that's where we're going. No, but I do think that of course, yeah. As far as arguably GTA, it would be tough to top those GTA numbers because isn't GTA 5 still the biggest selling entertainment of all time? And and I think that to get anywhere close to that would be a massive success for these guys. And I really hope they do because I want to experience something new. I'm finding that like every game I'm playing is kind of borrowing from other games and either not doing it as well or not. So like I feel like every time I play a game, it's like it's 90% there, but it doesn't feel like like the first time I ever played Call of Duty, where you were like, wow, this is amazing, and then you go back and play Call of Duty now, and it's like one of the worst games on earth. But the fact is that at that time, it really did push. It took everything and built it into one platform, one game that really pushed things forward. And I'm hoping that this does that and introduces mechanics that maybe everyone else tries to copy, because that's a sign of a good game. Is like when everyone wants to mimic.
Do you think it's going to be that innovative? Do you think it's going to bring in? Because I mean, just looking at the demo and stuff that's playing at the moment. Yeah. I mean, it's all obviously they're only showing what they want to show. Yeah. But it's not like there's anything really like purely from a mechanic point of view of what the game is doing. Yeah. Anything particularly new. I mean, what's different? It looks amazing. Looks really good. I love the immersiveness. I love the look, the style, the choices, all of that.
Looks better on PC, but yeah. But we'll never know, John. We'll never know what that looks like. We'll have to just rely on Wayne to reenact some of the.
Is it doing anything new? I mean,
well, I hope. I think
Deus Ex.
I think for me, you're right. Deus Ex was one of those games where it basically feels very similar.
It has a very similar look and feel. I know it's different, but kind of just looking at it cold like this.
I guess it's about maybe it's not about following the sort of the main storyline. Maybe it's how all of the side missions and existing within that world, is the thing that's going to make it different for me. I'm hoping that there's more like, for straight off, I'm interested in the branching narratives between people, the discussions where you can choose different. That's the bit I've always loved in a lot of games before, where you have multiple answers to things. And sometimes those answers don't matter, because they're not really sort of thought out to that level. And sometimes I've played it where they really do influence the game. And I guess like there's a game called Disco Elysium. I don't know if you've ever played it, but it's like
I've seen it, haven't I?
And it's all being raved about the branching conversations you can have that really do develop the story in different ways. And I think that's something that that does very well, and this game potentially could take that to a new level. And I think that's what I'm interested in. And if they get that right, I think it could be really good for future RPGs having to up their game.
I mean, I think one of the game mechanics that it's not really, I suppose it is a game mechanic, I don't know, but one of the things that I really liked in recent games which I thought was really interesting, was in GTA 5, where you could change your character. You could go to like the old dude, or sorry, the names are I've completely forgotten the names. Who's the mad one, the one who's always drinking and stuff?
Oh god, I must have put so much time into it, but I can't even remember.
Anyway, so between the three characters, you got the young dude, middle-aged dude, and then the bonkers dude. What I liked about that is that you could jump into them at any point.
Yeah, that was
they
cool.
Would be doing something completely random. If it's a drunk dude, I remember jumping into him and he was drunk riding a moped, wearing kind of like
yeah, that was really cool.
Shouting. Yeah, and I really like that. And that started making me think of, well, there was that Driver game, Driver San Francisco, I think a little while ago, where you could, I think it was on the previous gen, where you could jump into other drivers of the cars and take over, but you didn't really explore what that person was, but you could jump into that. And then that made me think of the new Watch Dogs. Is it Watch Dogs Legion?
Legions, yeah.
That does look good. Yeah, that does look good.
To be able to jump into somebody else. I'm just thinking, as a game mechanic, I really like that. And I'm just looking at the trailer for the new gameplay demo on Cyberpunk 2077 that we've got going.
Yeah.
I'd really like the idea of all of these NPCs that are walking around and doing stuff, being able to jump in and see their story, for a day. Like I was saying, like in Skyrim, I did that like mining for a weekend.
You say 9 hours, but I know it was much longer.
What I liked about that is that I'd gone from being this kind of like sneaky, dual wielding, fire dragon shouting thing to just doing something quite mundane and having a completely different life. Like you were saying about, maybe it'd be great if you could become a fixer for a bit and just have a little shop.
Yeah, sure.
I'd love to have that ability to jump around.
Maybe I'm not so sure that'll be like through the single player, but
I don't think
it wouldn't surprise me if you have the option of choosing your career for the multiplayer version. Maybe you are not the runner gunner. Maybe you are you do get the option to
geography teacher.
I know you can change on the fly though.
You can.
Yeah, I know that they've built the skill system so that when you are playing, you can change your character. I don't know how you're going to be able to do it, but you can literally respec your skill tree in the game. So if you're playing and you're like, oh, I need to hack something, you'll be able to, maybe move some abilities around or whatever. But they did say they wanted to be able to play it the way you want to, and deal with situations the way you want to.
But that's just good reference back to the original board game, right? So that's the original book, which is that and I've read a lot about the customization of the video game coming out, and that's something that you have total control over when you're sat around in a room with your friends doing the role playing. And I feel like that's another thing that I'm really interested in, is the customization of the characters, being able to, because I think you can pretty much change everything about your character. Am I right in terms of
view
augmentation?
The look of your character you can change.
And I'm assuming that you'll be able to do that throughout the game. Yeah.
Yeah, they said that.
What was the best character customization you've ever been on? Which game do you think handled it the best? Your experience.
I immediately think of. Did you ever play Demon Souls? I know they're re-releasing that soon, but Demon Souls had a really, really. I mean, it's quite an old game now, but it's FromSoft. It's like the game that spawned Dark Souls and all of those kind of sort of dungeon crawler, super hard games. None of which I've finished, but Sekiro I did. But the other ones, they're just so difficult. But actually, the character creation for Demon Souls was really overly, massively detailed, where you were literally changing the size of your pupils, and you could change. It went into such deep mechanics of that I thought was really cool, because
I love that. I love the idea of being, and that's what the modern Call of Duties, because it's all multiplayer and stuff like that. I'm a bit aggrieved that you can't create your own like properly create your own.
You can get different gear. You know, that's obviously what they're selling now is the cosmetics of that stuff.
Miscellaneous soldier figure A, there you are, and you've got a different tank top on.
You'd think by now they would have sorted that because there's a massive market for that. You know,
because one of the best games for personalisation I had was Brink. Do you remember Brink?
Okay. Yeah.
I had a brilliant. I mean, it was slightly cartoon affected, but that had a really awesome kind of like character creation thing. But then there's some games where you think they should have it really good, and it's utter tosh.
Yeah,
there's one called Black Desert Online where you could literally make anybody that you wanted, and people were going to the extremes of it was a Michael Jackson walking around.
That's so awesome.
Made Michael Jackson.
That's so awesome.
Chasing kids. Is it a game about chasing kids?
If ever there was a character that but also if ever there was a character that chasing kids, if ever there was a character that belonged in Cyberpunk, it's Michael Jackson because I mean he was basically the first augmented human.
Yeah.
So
just skin color.
He was, yeah, exactly. You know, if he'd have just had, if one day you just saw him and he had a drill for an arm, no one would have been surprised. You know, just the next day.
That's how drill music was started.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So guys, I think we're doing pretty good
Have we covered any of the points that
we sort of we keep touching back on them. I think that's what this is all about. Is like it's about taking what your experiences are with this and projecting what you hope the game might achieve. And I feel like
good.
I hope it's good. I mean, it's going to look better. It's going to look great on the PC.
I have a feeling that it's going to be an RPG, so it's not going to have any groundbreaking, new mechanics in it and stuff like that. It's going to be tried and true. It's going to be like Witcher 3 with a different skin. The only thing is going to be that's different is the storyline, the way you play it.
And I think if that's the base level, if it's the Witcher 3 with the new skin, then I'm all up for that. Because like I said, I mean, like demons and devils and wizards and goblins. I'm happy to play those games, but I'm always
that in your real life, don't you?
Well, exactly. I dress as a wizard when I leave the house, but but if it's sort of more of a futuristic dystopian, that's my jam. I love all that stuff. So if that combines really well, then on a base level, that's fine. I would like them to up something, whether it's just the way the missions go or I don't know.
The one thing that I want to see is if in the original pen and paper you had a trait or a skill, whatever you want to call it, called empathy, and empathy was based on the amount of cybernetics you had implanted.
Right.
So every time you put on a cyber armor, it would cost you D6 or whatever. I can't remember what the stats were, but it would take down your empathy. And once you reached a certain level of empathy, you could literally go berserk, and you had no control over your character because it wouldn't be your character anymore. And then you would have to go to therapy and spend time in therapy to try and get your empathy back up.
Yeah.
So you would always.
I wonder if they will bring that in because that's a really
that's the one thing.
And then you go into a mission and your options are completely limited of what you can do
because that's the one gang is Maelstrom gang. The one gang in here is the Maelstrom gang, and they are that tipping point of where their cybernetics is removing their humanity, and they're just becoming these crazy psychos that will react to anything completely unexpectedly. So.
But that's it, and I think like even if they just dial a little bit of that in, something to kind of up the game a bit, I think that would be enough. I think I'd be really happy with that,
Yeah.
So before we sort of wrap up, which we're kind of getting to the end, I think, can I just say Keanu Reeves?
Yes.
Because he's front and center of the branding and the sort of campaign behind this.
He's had a real renaissance the last few years, isn't he, Keanu Reeves?
He's gone from being a bit of a sort of a whoa dude, being that guy, to being quite cool now, and now he's in this. I mean, what do you think? Firstly, what do you think about Keanu Reeves being in this? And secondly, what do you think about games that do have famous faces in them, and whether they're necessary?
I think bringing like actors that people recognise, and I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I mean, TV's been doing it, obviously films,
They get actors people recognise.
Yeah, you get actors. That kind of makes sense. So I don't understand why you wouldn't, if you could, why you wouldn't do that in game. I mean, I do think perhaps
Yeah, what they announced was that this week on the redo of Spider-Man that they're going to have on the PS5, they've kind of replaced the miscellaneous guy who looked a bit like Tom Holland but wasn't Tom Holland. Have now replaced it with Tom Holland.
Replaced him with like a sort of fat 12-year-old, as far as I could see it the other day. And I'm not sure they've had a big backlash about that, because people are like, don't just upgrade everything, but don't change too much, because people love that.
But I think with Keanu Reeves, I think obviously, I think with something like Cyberpunk, it's.
I think he's the only choice because of his movies that he's done.
It was quite a calculated decision who we're going to get. Because obviously he's got the Matrix behind him, so you've got all the fans of the Matrix in there. But you've also got John Wick, so the John franchise, which.
Yeah, and also don't forget, Keanu's always played guitar. He's always been in a band, hasn't he? So like the fact that he's Johnny Guitar, or whatever his name is like Johnny Silverhand, he plays the guitar.
There's a lot of, so they're using Keanu Reeves to bring a lot of things into the game that you immediately think of. You're thinking of like cyberpunk dystopian features. You're thinking of super cool action and guns and all this kind of thing. And you think of a cool guy with a guitar and all of that.
And you get to hang out with Keanu Reeves, which obviously every man-child wants to do.
Well, apparently you don't get to. He's all in your head.
Sorry, John.
What is he going to actually do in there, and how much of a
Well, that's my question. Is like I don't mind it when they do have famous faces in these things, but then I don't like it when they just chuck them in for marketing. When it just feels like they've just added them because it raises the profile of a game that already has a massive profile, and I don't know if it's necessary, but.
The thing with Johnny Silverhand, though, in the pen and paper, is that he's a rocker boy, and he basically, it's like his message is put through his music, and like the whole thing is about, everybody's rebelling against something, and he just basically gets masses of people to rebel on it for his causes and such. So I mean, that's the thing is like Johnny Silverhand is a big thing in Night City, and I mean,
so
he's guiding.
Name,
he's guiding you through this, through the chip that you've got in your head, because he's not actually real. He's all in your head.
Right.
So he's narrating he's guiding you through your storyline.
Right.
So in the end, it could be like, well, that's Johnny Silverhand's
I have to admit,
opinion.
I don't have many reservations about this game. I think it looks incredible. I think they're going to take the best of the best and really push it as far as they can. I'm hoping there's some more dynamic elements in there that like you said about maybe not having any empathy because you've over augmented yourself and things. I like all those mechanics. I'm hoping that becomes a thing. I am worried about Keanu Reeves. I just feel like I'm worried that like when, John, what you were saying, you want to get lost in this world and get absorbed in this world. And, with these games now, it's very easy to do that, to kind of just shut out for a couple of hours and zone into these things. I'm worried if suddenly Keanu pops up on screen, whether I'm going to be like, it's Bill and it's Ted Theodore Logan has just appeared. That's the only thing I'm worried about, is that
maybe with the Spider-Man backlash, because Tom Holland has become Spider-Man, and you've seen the last couple of movies and the Avengers and stuff like that. Then if you've got the Spider-Man game, it kind of makes sense. Much in the same way. As I know the Avengers video game has been relatively well reviewed. I haven't played it yet, but it seems to be going.
We'll talk about that another time.
From what I've read, it seems like it's not groundbreaking or anything, but
it's a Destiny clone and not very good one, basically.
Oh right, okay. What I found interesting about it is that they didn't go for the
faces.
Faces.
No, but that's
from a financial point of view, I completely understand.
And there's something incredibly jarring about that when you're looking at the face of Tony Stark, and he looks like the guy that works in the coffee shop up the road. It just doesn't sort of, it doesn't look close enough to the comics. It's just,
that's definitely the issue with Keanu. That's potentially definitely the issue with Keanu Reeves.
That disconnect.
Obviously, if there's a Cyberpunk 2077 movie that's coming out in the future, and he's playing in that, and then it all ties together, that kind of makes sense because you expect to see him and what have you. But I think in this instance, it does feel a little bit like maybe they were looking for some kind of hook that they didn't really need to.
Well, that's what I mean. It's got such a massive profile. It's got a huge fan base already. Everyone, friends of mine that don't even play games know about this game. You know what I mean? It's like it already has this.
You just talk to them boringly.
I've only got 2 friends. So, and
we know, both Wayne and myself know about it.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's not you guys. No, I said friends. Your work associates now. So yeah, but I do think that having those sort of famous people, I can't think of another game that I've really liked a guest appearance by. So they had like Kevin Spacey popped up in Call of Duty a few years ago, and I just feel like it just felt like he was hamming it up. I mean, you don't play those games necessarily for the story, but whenever he was on screen, I was just like, it just disconnects.
Is it? I think because he doesn't have a main role in it, then I think with this it'll be different because he's playing a character that's part of the cyberpunk world.
Yeah, okay.
He's playing Johnny Silverhand. So
yeah.
But are you going to see Johnny Silverhand, or are you?
I do. When I look at it now, I'm like, I don't see Keanu. I say, oh, that's Johnny Silverhand. That's
right.
Until he starts talking. Until he starts talking, he's like, "Whoa, get up, dude!" And you'll be like, "Oh God, yeah, wild stallions." So yeah, but I guess that you're right. It's until you play it, you don't know what the exposure of that is, and I think maybe what it is that I don't really like these cash grabs where they just chuck someone in for a bit. If he's peppered throughout the whole game and he's a key part of the whole experience, I might actually not mind it so much, but it's when they kind of top and tail it. If he introduces you and then you play for 50 hours and then he turns up at the end, it's suddenly like, well, I just feel like they've squeezed him in, whereas if he is an integral part to your story, then so be it. But,
there is a time and a place for good little cameos, though. I know you mentioned about the Kevin Spacey. I mean, he was kind of like the lead bad guy in that Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Harrington in that other one, he was like the lead character in that Call of Duty. Was it Advanced Warfare?
Yeah, that's right. Advanced Warfare.
But then you have little cameos, which the one that I always think, and going back to my profession of love for GTA 4 is I love the fact that Ricky Gervais was in there, and the other comedian. You could go to the little club, and they're actually doing a bit, and that's a little cameo. And you see, in fact, with the Ricky Gervais, there was a little mission where you see him walking down the street, and coffee and what have you.
Yeah,
but I quite liked that because that was a little. But that kind of fitted.
It was optional.
It's New York, it's New York City. This is Broadway. There are shows. You are like mixing it with like the underclass and highbrows and all that kind of thing. Whereas with this Keanu Reeves just in Cyberpunk 2077, I don't know. I just don't know whether it is going to be kind of like just a kind of lip service to Johnny Silverhand.
Well, I hope not. He seems to be quite a big gamer and quite into his comic books and all that nerd culture. I'm hoping that he does have a lot of exposure. I mean, I can only liken it to. So I recently played, and I advise you never to play it, which is the Fast and Furious Crossroads game.
I did watch your glowing review.
It is the worst. It's the worst game on earth. It is currently the worst game on earth, and that's a total cash grab. I mean, and the gameplay is not good and all that kind of stuff. And I'm hoping that
it's amazing, really, because that should be an awesome game.
It should be. Yeah,
Furious, which I've seen a few. Then not really my thing, but you do a really good racing game with all of those crazy things going. Yeah, and that should be brilliant.
It should be. You're right, John. It should be. But the fact is that they just wanted to cash in, so they flashed the faces up on screen, and they had a mediocre game to go with it, and it didn't work. Whereas I feel like this is, Cyberpunk's going to be a really good game, and so the only part that I think it might make it or break it for me is Keanu popping up every 10 minutes to remind me.
I've just thought of the one not cameo, but the one famous actor who did a game, which I thought was excellent, was Chronicles of Riddick with Vin Diesel.
Okay, yeah.
Awesome.
That is good. That is a really good one, yeah.
But you see, that's the thing, is just you recognize him as the character, so it fits.
Because of the film,
Yeah.
And it was before you really knew who Vin Diesel was.
Yeah, I suppose
that also helped.
No. He'd done a few things.
Yeah, he'd already done a lot of stuff.
He'd done Triple X.
Maybe I just hadn't really. I don't think I'd seen Triple X the first time by that point, so maybe that's it. But I don't know. Let's move on from Vin Diesel. So you're talking about cameos. Obviously, what I also like is when it's not famous people that do little cameos, and they do have sort of.
And how do you know it's a cameo?
Well, if you're in the nerd gang, which you now are.
Nerd Gang is different. The one thing that irritates the shit out of me though is having these influencers do cameos. And I'm like,
Okay, yeah.
No,
But you mean you don't want Dr. Disrespect sitting in a bar so you can go and talk
please,
to him?
no.
All right, no, that is that. Yeah, but that's because like they're not famous.
They're not famous.
They're not old school famous. Like we remember famous people being. They're just in.
Well, you're looking for Timmy Mallet to chip up in like one of the Cyberpunk.
So be it. So be it. I mean, make it as real as possible. You know, I go down the pub. He's there in real life. So why shouldn't he be?
Augmented Mallet's mallet.
It's just his arm now. It's just his arm. So, but yeah, the game has Mike Pondsmith in it. So he's the guy that originally designed it, along with however many other people doing it with him. But he is actually going to be a character that you can go and talk to, and you know he's going to have some sort. And that was the chap who was in the video at the very start when we started talking. Yeah, he was discussing the where that all came from. So I don't mind things like that, where you have like maybe a William Gibson. They don't make a big deal of it, but he's just in that world. You know, I quite like that. That I don't mind.
What would be funny is if you go up and speak to him and he goes, "Oh, I remember the good old days."
Yeah,
and it goes back to the 2020.
Yeah, or he's just not augmented at all. He's just writing with a pencil and paper.
Rolling the dice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No,
that
would be so funny. But I think they, you know, knowing CD Projekt Red and how good they make these games, it wouldn't surprise me if all of this has been on the table at some point, where where they've just brainstormed it to you know. And I'm hanging sort of high hopes on this game because I do think
you've been
I'm ready for it. I think I'm ready for it. I think I was ready for it pre-pandemic. If that had come out pre-pandemic, it would be. I mean, it would have gone.
We wouldn't have to worry about the pandemic, would we? Really?
No, we wouldn't have had to, because we'd have all been augmented cyborgs living in a dystopian future. Which, by the way, just another quick fact I have here is that the history of the game, you know, it starts on a divergent timeline from 1990. So that's what I also like about it, is that there's a little bit of kind of 90s rock feeling about some of the stuff they've been promoting. I think that
very punk.
I'm always up for that. Yeah, no, I think there's a bit more of that sort of feeling into the world. I think that's not a bad thing.
But that's what the original pen and paper was about, was rebellion. Is like everyone's a punk basically. No one listens to authority. The corporates are trying to rule everything. They've got their private militia that are basically trying to, you know, keep them safe. And so it's
No, it does. I think I know. You know, I'm like I said, the world's this sort of expanding, changing character itself, and I'm looking forward to them. You know, adding DLC, which inevitably they will do. They're bound to have like a Johnny Silverhand DLC where you can play as him or something like that. You know,
he does lose his girlfriend. She gets kidnapped. So
spoilers.
I'm wondering. Yeah, so I'm wondering if this whole first story, because he keeps popping up in your head, is you having to maybe try and help find his girlfriend.
I'm sure there'll be some side quests where Keanu's lost his guitar or something. You've got to get in some strings.
Maybe I'm his girlfriend. That would be good.
Oh,
John, your dream would finally come true. You always wanted to be Keanu's girlfriend. Yeah,
I no longer
ever since Point Break.
It'd be awesome.
Seduce him, and the closing scene is you and him walking into his room together.
But I like the idea of you being like this giant augmented robot, and then him being a little guy just holding hands. I
got a special augmentation.
Now, actually, we should talk about that, because that is something
my special augmentation.
Well, not your special augmentation, but in the game there is a whole genitalia customization, isn't there? So that's something that they've introduced, and I think that's them.
Why do you think they've done that?
Well, there's a whole prostitution thing in it, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right.
You can go into brothels and sleep with cyborgs.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's okay because they're cyborgs.
Yeah.
So I think that's how they get away with it. So I don't know if this game's necessarily for the kids, which is another thing I quite like, which is, you know, when you're a kid and you read comics and you grow into your sort of teenage years and you're still reading comics like I was, people can kind of sort of frown slightly and be like, it's, you know, that's for kids and whatever. And obviously over the years, the comic genre has changed, and, you know, and there's comics for adults as well as kids, and it sort of grows with you. And I feel like games have done that as well, because, like, you know, as much as Speedball 2 and all those games were really good fun back then, like, you know, as time's progressed, these games have sort of grown up with us with our generation. So I couldn't imagine a game like Cyberpunk 2077 coming out in like the early 90s or like mid 80s. It wouldn't have felt, I don't think the industry had grown up to that point, whereas now
there were a lot of people who tried, and I've played a lot of games that were supposed to be Cyberpunk inspired, but they never made, they never gave you that feeling like,
yes,
this is the actual game. Where it's when I watch this, I get that feeling.
Yeah,
sure.
no, I think the immersion in this is just watching some of the gameplay and stuff at the moment is immense. But there was definitely, there were definitely a couple of games. I mean, I love the original Syndicate.
Actually, that is a good shout. Yes,
I really kind of bought into that.
Was that where you were the four little guys in like a sort of 3D isometric sort of thing? Yeah,
and it was corporations, and it's kind of like you got to go over there and take out the other corporations, and you do that slowly. And
that's right. Yeah, you took over the map. Yeah,
I love Syndicate, and that had that whole kind of like cyber world around it. There was autonomous cars going around.
Yeah,
it was relative. It was. Each section was kind of like small and contained, but it was like there were vehicles going around. There were different.
Yeah, that's right. And
the police would come.
That was such a great idea, and I couldn't wait for them to redo that for the sort of current day. And they did release a Syndicate game like 4 or 5 years ago, and it was just a crappy first-person shooter. It was so bad, and it got absolutely panned, rightly so.
There was an indie that I think was released last year. I can't remember what it's called now, which is essentially taken that same Syndicate kind of format and idea and redone it as kind of like that turn-based kind of thing now.
Yeah.
But what I really loved about the original Syndicate was it wasn't, I'm not a really big turn-based kind of game player. So I just kind of like the fact that I could run around, kit out all my 4 dudes with a load of armor and miniguns and just go and cause as much havoc
just
as possible.
Storm them. Yeah, no, that was a good game.
So just going back to the point about game earlier on really landing this, I do think there were instances. Syndicate is just the first one is just the one that springs.
I guess maybe they weren't. Maybe they were ahead of their time, and I just feel like the games now are far more mature, rather than back then. Maybe
I think there's a lot of alliteration of games at the moment. I think I'm looking at the games that I bought for my PS4 and my Xbox.
I like your TV, by the way.
Oh,
I'm checking that out.
CRT.
Oh,
is that the last ever television from 1991?
Hey, that's a Philips finest little.
Can I just say, out of all of your game collection, that TV is worth the most.
It's not. I got that for £10 off Facebook Marketplace.
You got to love Facebook Marketplace.
But I needed it for the Sky. It's got a little SCART connection, so I've got a SCART splitter, so I could plug the
full of boxes.
I noticed that all of this is in your working office.
I'm not allowed in the house,
which is away from the house. So I'm seeing how you've got your setup doing that.
No, I've got the Switch in the living room because that's the little one she likes playing with that. She's getting really good now at games. She's going to be beating me very soon, and then I've got my Dreamcast in the living room as well.
Yeah, and that's good as well. When the kids get to an age where they can play games as well. I mean, Milo's he's always playing on the Switch and that now.
So you're going to be getting Milo into.
I think I'll just get him to help me do the customization.
The top half.
Just the top half. Yeah, just the top half. I think that. I guess that's it. And what I was saying about games being more mature now is that, like, those sort of options wouldn't have passed the RSRB or RSAB or whatever they call it. Getting through the OK, getting the thumbs up. Whereas now it's just like, you want to customize your junk, go ahead. So, and I think
that I'm not entirely sure because you go back to some of the games like old games, and like the premise of them is bonkers. I mean, you look at like I had to stop the Whiffle from playing. There's a game called Shakedown Hawaii. I don't know if you guys have played that. It was a follow up to Retro City Rampage, which is kind of like a GTA. Retro City Rampage was a GTA kind of clone done in 8-bit graphic styles, tongue in cheek.
Is it like Hotline Miami?
Yeah,
is it like a top down?
That kind of look and feel. And Shakedown Hawaii was the follow-up, which was exactly the same, but it's like set in Hawaii and it's done in 16-bit graphics. It's quite fun, and she loved it. I put it on free roam mode, and she would just cruise around, jump in cars, run people over, shoot stuff. And I was suddenly started thinking, and Shannon was saying, it's probably not the most appropriate for her. So So I've locked that down, but she loves playing the Kirby games. Kirby's this cute little
Milo loves them.
Kirby is a mass murderer who uses mind control. It's fucking mental.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's okay for her to do that. So she flies around, she gets somewhere, she finds
breeds people in,
eats them, takes their powers, and then pops them out as a star. Which
it's because, but it's because it's all done in a cartoony, friendly way, you know. So
you guys have become the old people now calling games bad because there's mass shootings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yes, exactly.
Why can't you not just go and mass murder people with a machine gun?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When did that become so wrong?
That's what I always loved about the Nathan Drake games. You know, like the Uncharted games. Is he's meant to be this kind of, Indiana Jones type hero, and throughout the game, you must murder about 300 people. Like just
looking for an AK-47 to empty into like the enemies that are respawned.
And then there's a quick cutscene where he makes a friendly quip or like a little joke, and you're like, "You're a psychopath," you know. Like, but I think with the 2077 stuff for Cyberpunk, I mean, you're fully, the whole sort of premise of the game is just tilting you towards NPCs that are psychopaths or do have something wrong with them, and it's that interaction I think sort of feels more fitting for this. And if you're a mass murderer in this game, it feels kind of okay because within that world, I did say that out loud. Within that world, that'll be the cut that I use as the little clip for what happened for this episode. But it is kind of okay because within the rules of the world, then a lot of people are, and it's a strange sort of environment to find yourself in. Whereas, like you said, if you're Kirby, just popping along, jumping up and down, eating fruit and stuff, and then suddenly you're murdering people.
In one of the
darker.
One of the clips that you see is the trauma team rocking up, and they're all fully armed and armored. It's because
okay.
they have to be, or they all die too. It's just like that's the world you live in.
Yeah. Well, chaps, I think we're winding down. I think we've done Cyberpunk now. I'm not sure I even need to play it.
just going through your list of questions.
Yeah,
we've done everything.
I think we've pretty much done everything. I did have 2 questions for you, Wayne, because you are. It's good that you've been on this because John and I virtually know jack all about Cyberpunk, which has been good. Other than if it's in front of us, we can talk about it, but we don't know much about the lore. So thanks for sort of taking care of that. Obviously, having that experience. And with that experience, I'm assuming you would know what a Ripper doc is.
Ripper doc, yeah. Is a black market cybernetics person.
I'm testing you now. Okay.
He'll throw on some of the shadier stuff that you could only get if you knew certain people.
Oh, okay. And the last one is, do you know what a brain dance is?
Brain dance, yeah. When you go into the net.
You see, I love
when
these games come in and all the terminology comes out for it. I love all that stuff.
Do you know what an output is?
Only on John's old television.
It's
like my augmented junk again.
An input is a girlfriend.
Oh, okay,
Therefore, an output is a boyfriend.
Oh, okay, I like that. Yeah, very good, very good. So I guess I think we've just about covered the sort of the history of all this, and and everything else.
We've not covered any history. We badmouthed a load of games, complained about the young generation, talked about video game collecting.
Who'd have thought three pasty white privileged blokes talking about games in their 40s? Wayne, you're obviously the youth. Who wouldn't want to listen to that? But I mean, history as in we mentioned when it started. So like I said, with all of these things, there's no depth or substance, and very rarely any facts. So it all works together pretty well.
I think the only thing left is on your list is what we have been playing before.
Oh yeah, so that was what I was going to ask you. Firstly, I was going to say, I thought maybe what we could do when this one's finished, that we've finished doing this episode, is maybe at the start of last week of November or first week of December, maybe we could get back together for an hour and just have a talk about because Wayne, I'm assuming by that point you'd have sunk about 1,000 hours into it. I'll have definitely done 2 hours.
What weekend?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'll be too busy mining. I'll be.
You'll be. Yeah, you've got that cardboard car. You've got that cardboard flying car to finish building for your Cyberpunk themed garden. So I thought maybe if you guys are up for it, we could get back together and talk about our sort of first impressions of it, and whether it's just like we'll just come on and go, nah, it's crap.
Yeah. My imagine it's like people when you watch a movie, the book was better.
Yeah, exactly. I like the idea, John, of you not engaging but still being on, broadcasting, but just playing Speedball 2 on your TV while we're talking about it, because you're more. I'll be with you in a minute. I guess that I did just want to touch briefly on what you've been playing now, because like me, I've been playing Ghost of Tsushima and I'm so close to the end and I've been really enjoying it, but I think I'm ready to kind of move away from swords and foxes and horses and get sort of lost in this Night City world. John, what you been playing much recently?
I've been playing a bit of Ghost as well, but I'm only about 10 or so hours in, and I was really enjoying it, but I am finding it a little bit boring.
It's a bit grindy. Just stick with it. Have you got to the second act yet? Have you got past? Once you get into the second act, it gets much better. If you can push past just another hour or two and get to that bit, it does get much more interesting. The story starts picking up a bit more.
So the main thing that I've been playing is probably I've been playing Twilight Princess on the original Wii, because I've been playing that with my daughter. And obviously a bit of Cyberpunk, of Speedball on there.
Yeah.
On my PlayStation 2 recently, which I'm just going to show you.
Just blow the dust off it. Is it like the Grail?
Time Splitters. The Time Splitter series. Time Splitters.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love Time Splitters. Yeah,
yeah,
I've played that for ages.
Really good. And then I've been playing a bit of Metroid on my GameCube.
Are you doing all these at the same time? I'd like to think you're
kind of like
the Jean-Michel Jarre of video games.
Because I've got it in my work. So you know what it's like. You can have like a half-hour break, or you get like a 40 minutes here or whatever.
Yeah.
As opposed to just going, I'll just fire up, play some FIFA or play a bit of Warzone. I've been playing a bit of Warzone as well.
Yeah.
Don't swear.
Go on. Sorry.
You said FIFA. Don't swear.
Oh yeah.
I like a bit of FIFA. There's nothing wrong with a bit of FIFA.
I don't really. I buy. I think I buy FIFA every year with the idea that I'm going to play it. I play the first 10 minutes and I'm like, nah. My brother's well into it. He does all the Will does all of the weekend events and everything. He's just like.
I don't do any of that shit.
How much money have you sunken into that game?
No, I don't do any of that business.
Okay. All right, that's fine then.
What I like about FIFA is I get it, and then I set up a career mode, and I'm either playing as an individual person or as the manager. So I build my own character from a 17-year-old lad up to like English worker. Or what I've been doing recently is like doing the team game. So I'm managing, and I managed Peterborough United for about 10 seasons. I managed to get us to.
So you're to blame.
Back-to-back European Cup wins.
Wow.
And then got headhunted by Barcelona. I went to Barcelona and I've just completed my 3rd season with Barcelona. And now I'm looking for a move.
That sounds just like real. It's parodying real life.
I took Norway to the World Cup final and won the World Cup as well. So
yeah. So like I said, just like real life.
Just like real life. So it's kind of like just being able to dip in, and that's why I've got all this kind of here, because then I think, actually, I haven't played. So I haven't played Def Jam Icon on my PlayStation 3.
No.
Let's fire that up.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it sounds good.
And
I think like
after 5 minutes and play something else.
Do you ever have a time where you're not playing games? I mean, I don't mean do you ever just consciously think, oh, do you know what? I'm just going to have a couple of weeks of not gaming at all?
No, not really, because probably like a lot of ourselves, like video gaming is kind of like one of the things that I really like to do in my spare. Some people like to read books, some people like to watch films, some people like to cook, some people like to spend time with the family.
Out.
I like to. I try to play, play games, but as much as I can. But it's not always that easy when you've got like young.
Yeah, you've got lots of other stuff.
Which is why the Nintendo Switch is really good, because we can be together and Wiffle can play and I can play and what have you. But it's the thing that I like to do. So if I've got time off and I don't have to do anything, then I fire it up. Which is why I'm really excited by Cyberpunk 2077, because I am looking for that game that I can really get absorbed into. And I was hoping it was going to be Ghost of Tsushima was going to be the game that.
Yeah, it's not quite there. It's good, but it's not great.
It's probably me. It's not them. It's me. I genuinely do think that. I think I really like the idea of being a samurai, but I think.
Well, it takes you ages to get your costume on before you play. That's your problem.
Exactly. It's taking me ages to learn Japanese. I mean,
there's English subtitles, right? Anyway, but no,
it's too slow paced. I need something which is I I need something that can give me that kind of like hit of action or excitement or whatever. And I can have that for like 45 minutes to an hour. And then I have to stop and then I have to do something else.
Yeah, sure. And you still feel like you've progressed. Yeah.
Whereas
and I think
with Ghost, like 10 minutes and I've ridden across a field with the wind blowing, and I might have been killed by one person. Something else started.
And then you turn it off and it just resets you. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I do go through phases of like consciously not playing, like because I like playing. If I had my own way, I'd just play like all the time because I enjoy playing games, and and I like the the good ones that really absorb you into their worlds. But if something like Cyberpunk comes up, I treat it the same way I do like if there's a film coming out that I really want to see, I shut down any social media options of me being able to see anything, any spoilers. That's why I haven't really watched much of the trailers, and I've seen bits and pieces, but I didn't want to get too deep into it until we did like a 2-hour podcast on it. Just looked at it all anyway.
I'll tell you everything.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then Wayne just tells us everything. But then so like with the films that come out, I don't want to see anything before it comes out. So what I might do now is have like a couple of weeks where or a couple of weeks before the game comes out where I don't play anything. Almost like, even though I might want to, I might kind of just hold back because I don't want the fact that maybe I've been playing an open world game, right, that's different right up to the night before Cyberpunk comes out to ruin the fact that, I might get slight fatigue in the beginnings of that game, which I don't want to have. So I'm kind of thinking I'm going to go on a bit of a shutdown and then start up with a fresh.
That's why I'm doing kind of like random different games.
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to get that fatigue of an open world, because there are so many good open world games out there. We could be playing from they're out now or have been previously released or whatever. But you do get a bit kind of fatigued. Yeah.
I mean, Watch Dogs Legion comes out in October, and that's an obvious one to sort of get stuck into. But like, I'm just going to hold off. Yeah,
and I reckon quite a lot of people probably won't touch it, even though it does look really good. But I just think that will probably be one for after Christmas.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think the problem with that though is that it's taking a lot from the other watchdogs. So the hacking is the same. You look at the terminals, you spin the panels, and once you've done it for an hour, it's kind of like
it's sort of the same. Yeah. I did like Watch Dogs 2 better than the first one because I did actually manage to play all of Watch Dogs 2 without consciously killing anyone. So like I got the taser as soon as I could, and I managed to get to that point without killing anyone. If I killed anyone, I actually restarted that mission so that because I wanted to see if I could get through the whole thing, and I did. I got through the whole thing with the taser. I just tasered everybody rather than killing them, or like managed to evade them in a more sort of stealthy way.
What you didn't see though was all those NPCs were then having like heart attacks and stuff like later on because of the electrical current that you've been putting through them.
Well, all the bad
like, we don't know what's wrong with him. He was just buying coffee, and then all of a sudden,
but the fact that I wasn't killing the bad guys, they would then recover from their tasering and go out on a rampage and kill like hundreds of people. So indirectly, I killed more.
Give them a small aneurysm in their head.
I felt better, but maybe it wasn't the best thing. And so Wayne, so what are you playing at the moment, Wayne? Because you're, you're.
Oh, jeez, I'm between everything.
Because
recently, yeah.
What was the one you played recently? Which was the where you were the knight? I can't remember. It was. I say recently. It probably was like 6 months ago. But it was one where you started off as a sort of foot soldier, and then you built yourself up. You learned to fight, and it improved the fighting mechanic. What was that one?
Oh shit!
Well, I'm sure there was one that you said that
probably yeah.
But I remember you saying there was a mechanic in it where, as you practiced, you got better at handling swords and shields, which I quite like.
Was that the one where you actually have it in first-person sword fighting?
Yeah, that's right.
There was,
yeah.
What was there was Mordhau, and then something else after Mordhau that came out. Bannerlord, I think. Bannerlord.
Oh, was that it? Okay,
yeah,
I know it was one you said where there was a learning mechanic in it, which I thought was quite good. In the more you practice, the better you got at.
Better you got. I mean, what's the name had that mechanic in it? Oh man. Yeah, it's Bannerlord, but the
problem is there's so many good games coming out that have all these things. It's like,
yeah,
back in the day, it'd be like that game will come out. It would be amazing for like 18 months and everyone would be banging on about it. But give it 10 days and something else comes out.
Yeah.
But also that's because you only had like £10, so you had to save up for ages to have that one game, and then you would have that game.
Well, you say save up. I had X-Copy 2 on the Amiga, where we would just pirate everything. Well, hang on a sec. No, but like everybody did.
Legitimate backup copies of games that I originally owned.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then sold them.
Although, sorry, that's taking me on a diagram. I want them to remake Wings from the Amiga.
Oh yeah, that was good. Yeah, that was good.
Really want Wings again.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So what are you playing, Wayne? So you see,
I was playing Medieval Dynasty. That's pretty good. I don't know. I kind of tend to lean towards the survival games. Where there's no, like, stories are great, but I think playing pen and paper RPGs, like I said before, it's a linear thing where it's their story and you have to follow it. So with survival games, it's kind of like, here's a world, just survive. And, you know, so Medieval Dynasty is a bit like.
Have you played like Rust? Is there one called Rust?
Yeah, I played Rust, but that's.
I thought that was. I heard that was quite good. I've not played it. They're not really my jam.
It's good, but it's one of those games where if you're not willing to put in staying on the computer all day, you're going to log on overnight.
But
and you're
John,
not gonna have
that might be one for you, because there's like bits where you have to spend like 24 hours logging trees and stuff. So that might be just right up your street.
If you like, Medieval Dynasty is pretty good because it's medieval. You literally rock up to your uncle's doorstep because your family's been killed, and he's like, you can have as much land as you want, go build, and you literally build up your own little village. Yeah. So, but you have to cut the trees down. You have to mine the iron.
See, that's the bit I can't get past that part. I think like if it was like if it was on the Switch and you were just doing it while you were watching TV or whatever, that's fine. But I think consciously going and sitting in front of my computer for like 5 hours and just
for me, that's relaxing. That's the relaxing part. I enjoy first-person shooters. I enjoy PvP. It's got that place. I mean, like I've never had adrenaline rushes like playing PUBG or you know, those kind of games where it's.
What you mean when you're lopping branches, you're not like, oh, this is amazing.
but you get to turn.
You don't get that thrill.
Yeah, you get to turn off. It's one of those games where it's like, I know I've just got to mine 100.
Oh, that's interesting.
100 logs, so I can now stand here and cut down 50 trees.
I think that's logs. Like games as meditation. That's like a meditation part of it, isn't it?
I think that's what a lot of people don't understand about, like, I say our culture, but culture of people who like comic books, like movies, like games. It's that escapism. You get away from your problems, your stress, your life, and you can literally turn off and just look at the screen and go, I need to collect 50 trees to go and build a cabin. Yeah, and then you go off and build your cabin.
So do you think there's a guy out there who works as a blacksmith for his normal job? He works all day hammering, and then he comes home and he's like, do you know what? I'm going to pop into Skyrim and do some more hammering.
He would come home and log into a first-person shooter and go and mine the salt of the tears of the kids that he's murdering.
But I like that. I like that sort of games as escapism and all that stuff. I think that's that is good. And again, to keep coming back to Cyberpunk, because I feel attracted to that game because it does feel very much like that. I like the idea that maybe you don't do any of the quests and you just wander around and do stuff like in GTA. You could go and hold up a kiosk and rob them, or you could go and there's all these other things to do outside that
I really hope they have lots of that kind of thing in there. That, it's get classed as side missions or side quests or whatever they phrase. But I just hope there's some really interesting, good ones.
I think there will be.
And gives you that world to play in. You're right with the GTA. You could go and rob the like corner shop. And then you get chased by the police. Which has done that a couple of times though. It's kind of starting to get a bit.
Yeah, true. I guess it's the variety of what those.
But then I don't want them to be. I don't want the variety to be, and I mean this with all love, as boring as Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah,
which is amazing.
Yeah.
A bit boring. Really.
Yeah. I know from one of the videos that I've watched about it is that you do have a police system, so you can literally walk up to somebody on the street, pull your gun out, blow his brains out, and then have to evade the cops. Yeah.
So I was reading something about that where in certain parts of the city, if you have a rating, the cops
your cool rating.
Yeah, they leave you alone. That's right.
And also the gangs, so the affiliation with the gangs and
yeah,
stuff.
Sure.
From what I've read or from what I've seen on YouTube videos is that there is the possibility of certain gangs taking over other gangs' areas. So each gang is tied to their
turf,
their zone, their turf, and you can be hired because you're a mercenary. You won't be friends with them, but you can do work for them that'll help them take over other turf.
John, that might give you your syndicate fix, of kind of being able to take over parts of the map like that. Now, I have got a little list of mini games that are confirmed in the game. There are others, but these are ones I have. So the mini games include hacking, boxing, auto racing, so obviously street races, martial arts, and shooting ranges. So pretty sort of standard stuff, but they are confirmed.
Pretty much the core mechanics of the game just span out into...
Just stretched out in little missions. But the street racing suddenly... I mean, I'm not really a big fan of street racing mini games and things, but it does look awesome.
Depends on what the car mechanics are like. I mean, if the car handling is half decent, then it could be quite fun. If it's
like Fast and Furious Crossroads, if they've taken a leaf out of their book, then it should be awesome.
From what I've watched, the guys that played the demo, hands-on demo, were actually surprised by the car mechanics, the handling. And apparently the guys that were standing around watching, the guy would get into the car, drive, and he was like, shit, this is good. And the guy would go like, yep.
Yeah, okay,
so everyone was surprised because, like you said, he was like, is it going to be like physics like
just
GTA where, and it's not, but apparently it feels pretty good. And also, it's not just city racing because you've also got the Badlands, which is the wastelands where the nomads come in.
Pod racing,
you've got racing in the deserts.
Can you build? Do you know whether you can build up your own car and things like that?
In the trailer, it shows you're working on cars, so you can modify your cars. Yeah,
build your own cyber hot rod and things like that.
Wicked. Yeah, I mean, if you can't build it, you'll certainly be able to customize the color and all that sort of stuff.
And
so if
you can
wanted
steal it.
Yeah, as well.
It's got GTA mechanics where you can literally walk up to a car on the streets, pull the guy out, jump in his car, and drive off.
You see, that's where like Rockstar have kind of stumbled a bit. It takes them so long to bring out their games in between GTAs that games like this come along and they kind of almost pull the rug out for them, because what GTA really need to do, they need to do like a futuristic version of that. That would be such a cool world, but Cyberpunk's already there. They're already
maybe GTA 6 is not coming out because they were going Cyberpunk style.
Maybe
no.
I don't think it's coming out because they're having trouble writing satirical sort of backstories of, because everything that they're predicting is coming true. It's like Donald Trump will be president. Oh no, hang on a minute, there'll be a worldwide pandemic.
Virus outbreak.
Yeah, no, exactly. Which
maybe they should go old world then.
Even better.
GTA medieval, something like that.
Stealing horses and carts.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's Red Dead.
Exactly. But somewhere in between, even further back.
Yeah, go medieval times, something like that.
No, I think caveman. Let's get let's be fighting over mud and sticks. There's a game I'll never play.
That sounds like our dystopian future, to be honest. With things.
Yeah. Well, I did read I did go on Wikipedia to find out what the breakdown of Cyberpunk is, and and it does say in the description that it's a dystopian futuristic setting that focuses on a combination of low life and high tech. And then I thought, he's been to Croydon, because that's exactly what that, it's not so different. We're not far from augmented tech. And I think that's what's interesting about this game as well, is that while it is a futuristic kind of style game, it's not that far away from us all having phones. And they're talking about, I don't know if you guys have read anything or heard anything about Neuralink, which is the kind of next stage of evolution for what's going to happen with your, they're saying by 2050 a lot of people might be jacked into having a neural link behind their ear and all that.
Straight out Cyberpunk.
Straight out Cyberpunk, yeah, exactly.
Well, Elon Musk is a big fan of that.
That's right, yeah. Apparently they've done it. I can't remember if it was a pig. I think they've done it successfully with a pig now. Where
there's been other instances where it's been done with monkeys being able to control stuff on screen. And,
I just like the idea of them doing it with the pig, and then he becomes like the Uber Lord of Earth because he's now like super clever and controls everything. There's a game that needs to be made, but maybe we'll put that on the back burner. But so I think, do you know what? I think we've been down the list. We've talked about everything to do with gaming and John's gaming collection and little telly. So I think if you guys are up for it, we'll do like a sort of follow-up episode down the line and see what your sort of first reactions are and stuff. So we'll work out a date. I think that's it. So I just wanted to say cheers, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks very much for coming on. It's been really interesting. Wayne, I'm glad you know everything about this, and John and I know virtually nothing about it, because otherwise it wouldn't have been very informative. But so I appreciate you coming on. And I guess I'm just going to sign off by saying, be good, stay safe, be kind to one another. Cheers, chaps.
Cheers.
Cyberpunk, should we just shoot each other in the face?